Chapter 1010. Mubai. Nguyen Tan Lan rushed excitedly to Chen Hao's side when the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree vanished from between Chen Hao's brows and the barrier of immortal light opened. She'd been in so much despair that she'd lost all hope. She hadn't expected the tables to turn. Her joy was indescribable. "All right, the old man will send you back. Remember, even if you can't be friends with Li Mubai, you can't be enemies with him. Don't provoke him if you run into him." The immortal scripture city master transmitted his voice to the 9 monsters. "Grandpa Master, what is he? Why can he sense me and devour me?" The Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree. It's grown to a terrifying level. Its life origin energy can grow to the same level as your physical life origin, but that's only its subsidiary ability. Tao manifestation, its greatest strength is the condensation of endless Tao laws. As long as its cultivator's potential reaches that level, there's no limit to its growth. Impressive, truly impressive. The Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree is rooted in the soul origin brand and is bound to the endless cycle of reincarnation. Even the old man isn't confident he can achieve such a feat. All right, remember the old man's words. Don't be enemies with it. Just let him leave on his own. "Master, do you mean to send him to the Hongmeng domain?" "Of course. Haven't you guessed it already? Go." Chi. 9 beams of immortal light suddenly enveloped the 9 monsters. Soon after, a space-time tunnel with a terrifying aura opened, and the 9 of them disappeared into it. The 1,000 disciples who have qualified to enter the immortal scripture city remain. The others, please leave with your sect masters, grand elders, and other mighty figures. The immortal scripture city will close in 15 minutes. In the Hunyuan sect, the 5th grand elder, Tian Wanxiang, Gao Xiangqing, and the others quickly came to the side of their respective disciples. The 5th grand elder, Tian Wanxiang, and Gao Xiangqing naturally came together because of Chen Hao and Nguyen Tan Lan. Disciple, 5th grand elder Tian Wanxiang looked at Chen Hao with a complicated expression and shouted at the same time. "I originally thought that you would be able to inherit my legacy, but I didn't expect that I no longer have anything worth passing on to you. It's over before it even started. At least we're fated to be master and disciple. Regardless of whether you like it or not, I'll leave it behind for you. This is my life's comprehension. Perhaps it'll still be of some use to you now." The 5th grand elder stared at Chen Hao's empty eyes as he spoke with a hint of sadness and desolation. After he finished speaking, a light flashed between his eyebrows, and a jade slip emitting a sparkling purple light appeared in his hand. The 5th grand elder reached out and took Chen Hao's hand, placing it in Chen Hao's hand. At this moment, 2 bright lights flashed between Chen Hao's eyebrows. One light took the jade slip that clearly contained the Tao marks that the 5th grand elder had learned and comprehended in his life into his mind. The other light wrapped around 2 magic treasures that bloomed with the might of the immortal scripture and slowly floated in front of the 5th grand elder, Tian Wanxiang. Chen Hao really wanted to say something to the 2 of them, but in the end he held back. He just took out the immortal scripture magic treasures and presented them to the 2 of them, and then there was no more reaction. "Immortal scripture magic treasures," Gao Xiangqing said excitedly. "Master doesn't need this. Keep it for yourself." The slightly surprised 5th grand elder said without thinking. "I don't need it either." Tian Wanxiang was originally holding it in his hand, but at this moment, he hurriedly said. The 2 of them were very moved, especially the 5th grand elder. He hadn't recognized Li Mubai as his disciple for long, but in his subconscious state, Li Mubai actually took out the immortal scripture magic treasures to show his filial piety to them. One could imagine their position in Li Mubai's heart, but no matter how the 2 of them tried to stuff it into Li Mubai's hands, Li Mubai didn't put it away. Nguyen Tan Lan stared blankly, ripples in her heart. Was this his subconscious mind, or was there a trace of consciousness? "Qing Lan, Li Mubai. Maybe there's a problem, but when there's an opportunity, we have to grasp it. He should be able to go in and comprehend the immortal scripture's sacred land. Let's go with him. We'll take it one step at a time." "Master, what's going on with Mubai?" "Sigh. Although I felt strange at first, I didn't think too much about it. Later, the 9 great geniuses stopped him in succession, which was too puzzling. Fifth Grand Elder and Elder Tion didn't explain and looked worried. Later, many powerful figures speculated that Li Mubai is probably a cultivator from another greater thousand world, who came from the endless reincarnation. If nothing goes wrong, the controller will send him out of the chaotic greater thousand world and strip him of the imprint of the chaotic greater thousand world. Qinglan, you've been smart since childhood to choose him, and now, I don't know if it's good or bad, but since you've already reached this step, you don't have to worry about anything, and do your best to improve yourself. He has all kinds of legendary unique skills. Even if he doesn't teach you, you can still comprehend a lot from the fusion of yin and yang. The immortal scripture's sacred land, 1,000 years of time, don't waste it. Nguyen Tan Lan's eyes widened as she listened to Gao Xiangqing's words, and her face became very pale in an instant. When she heard her master say that Li Mubai would be sent out of the chaotic greater thousand world, her mind became blank. Even if she transmitted her voice, she didn't hear the rest of Gao Xiangqing's words. Time's up. Please leave immediately. The controller's shadow issued an ultimatum. The 5th Great Elder and Tian Wanxiang held the immortal scripture magic treasure that Chen Hao forcibly gave to them. They took a deep look at it, and then turned into 2 streamers. Gao Xiangqing didn't know whether to be happy or disappointed. He looked at Nguyen Tan Lan, who seemed to have lost her soul, with mixed feelings. After sending out a wisp of Dao sound to wake her up, he shook his head and left. 1,000 years, don't I still have 1,000 years? Nguyen Tan Lan suddenly woke up from her master's Dao sound, which was directly transmitted into the depths of her soul. What happened to me just now? How can this be? I'm pursuing the peak of martial arts. The great Dao is ruthless. The great Dao is ruthless. Nguyen Tan Lan didn't know that at this moment, Chen Hao's empty eyes were sizing her up. When Chen Hao saw the crystal light and sharpness in her eyes, he felt a little conflicted because of Nguyen Tan Lan's soulless look, but he immediately relaxed. Similarly, Chen Hao also didn't know that Nguyen Tan Lan woke up so quickly because of some kind of mysterious Dao sound that his master deliberately added. The great Dao is merciless. A piece of paper, which was not pierced through, caused countless years of waiting and disappointment, of course, that belonged to Nguyen Tan Lan. Chen Hao might occasionally think of his experience in the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds, but he didn't have any regrets. At least, that was what he thought. Everyone had their own pursuits, and it was enough to give her what she wanted most. It was a wrong combination. He had no regrets, and he didn't let his conscience down. Chapter 10-11. Qing Lan. Just as Nguyen Tan Lan gently held Chen Hao's hand and was about to leave the arena, a figure suddenly appeared beside them and stared at Nguyen Tan Lan. What's the matter, senior brother Situ? Nguyen Tan Lan frowned slightly. You should have received the news, right? Situ Qian looked directly at Nguyen Tan Lan and said, he's just an outsider. You and him won't be together. In the past, sorry, I still have something to do. Although Nguyen Tan Lan still maintained the last bit of etiquette, her gaze towards Situ Qian was already full of disdain, and she directly left. This was the top genius of the Hunyuan sect? In the past, he looked down on the Hunyuan sect, and no matter what arrogant things he did, it was only right in everyone's eyes. He was the #1 genius, and he was not at the same level as everyone else. But now, when Nguyen Tan Lan rose to a certain level, she realized that this person's temperament was worse than an ordinary disciple's. Especially in such an occasion, he actually dared to criticize Li Mubai and express goodwill towards her. If this wasn't an idiot, then what was? Brother Huang, have you heard? Li Mubai might be an outsider from the endless cycle of reincarnation to our chaotic colossal world. A total of 60 to 70 people from the Chaos Academy participated, and 43 of them were actually qualified to enter the sacred ground of the Immortal Sutra. At this time, they all gathered around the genius Huang Tianhua. It's not a possibility, it's a certainty. Cider, this is a chance for me. Brother Huang, what do you mean? Situ Qian is really unbearable. How can he be worthy of Nguyen Tan Lan? You're asking for humiliation. Brother Huang, Nguyen Tan Lan has already lost her primordial yin body. So what? It was just the fusion of yin and yang, a kind of cultivation method. In my eyes, it's nothing. Oh, by the way, pass on my message to that idiot Sidu Qian. If he dares to do anything to Nguyen Tan Lan, don't blame me, Huang Tunhua, for being impolite. After saying that, Huang Tianhua turned into a stream of light and flew away. The disciples of the Primal Chaos Academy looked at each other in dismay. In the chaotic, boundless world, men were possessive. As long as they had some status, they would not wear shoes that had been worn by others, especially when the shoes were relatively famous. For a man, that was a very shameful thing. Monstrous geniuses are monstrous geniuses. For the sake of cultivation, they don't care about reputation at all. Someone said softly, "What do you mean?" Nguyen Tan Lan alone has 3 Dharma treasures. Perhaps Brother Huang doesn't care about them, but Li Mubai displayed powerful magical powers in the battle with the 9 monstrous geniuses. How many cultivators dream of having such powerful magical powers? Even if Li Mubai didn't impart them to Nguyen Tan Lan, they could still comprehend many of the Tao laws contained in the fusion of yin and yang. Whoever obtains Nguyen Tan Lan will obtain cultivation insights from another boundless world. I also want to... Unfortunately, Brother Huang has already warned us. Warning? That's true. At this moment, everyone finally understood why Huang Tianhua had clearly expressed his interest in Nguyen Tan Lan in front of all of them. At the same time, he had asked them to pass on his warning to Sidu Qian. That was undoubtedly meant for them to hear as well. As Nguyen Tan Lan and Chen Hao flew towards the palace, a beam of immortal light suddenly descended from the sky and enveloped the two of them. Chen Hao didn't react at all. It was as if he already knew that this immortal light was coming, or that he knew that he couldn't resist it. Nguyen Tan Lan was shocked. No need to panic. In the immortal scripture city, apart from the ruler of the old man, no one dares to act recklessly. Ruler, Nguyen Tan Lan, Li Mubai is an outsider from the endless cycle of reincarnation. You can no longer be with him in the sacred land of the immortal scripture. Moreover, the old man will strip away any aura related to him from your body. But he won't strip away your memories of being with him. One more thing, after stepping out of the sacred land of the immortal scripture, you can't enter the Hongming region on your own before the old man comes looking for you. Ruler. Tianji, Qi. Mubai. When the ruler only said the 2 words, Tianji, Li Mubai, who was also surrounded by immortal light, suddenly turned into a stream of light and broke through the sky. Nguyen Tan Lan exclaimed and screamed. Tears instantly streamed down her face as she frantically tried to break free from the shackles of the immortal light. However, everything she did was in vain. Chen Hao couldn't see or hear. Tianji. How can there be so many Tianji that can be predicted? The old man just left a seed of hope. Although it seems that there's no need at all and it's not very possible, we can't let our guard down. The ruler sensed Nguyen Tan Lan's state and thought to himself, I didn't expect that I was worrying too much. Since that's the case, put it away. Nature is the best. No one knew that in the immortal light that surrounded Nguyen Tan Lan, a dense and undetectable light was suddenly drawn out. If this light entered Nguyen Tan Lan's soul, then her emotional world would become an eternal and indelible eternity. She would no longer be able to accommodate any man other than Chen Hao in her heart. The ruler naturally had his reasons for doing so. The potential that Chen Hao had shown was really too terrifying. It was so terrifying that the ruler still had lingering fears. Such a person, as long as there was a slight possibility that he could find the vast 1,000 chaotic worlds in the future, he could bring about a huge disaster. Therefore, he wanted to keep Nguyen Tan Lan, and even anyone that Li Mubai had ever had feelings for in this life. It seemed useless now, but it might play a decisive role in the future. The great Tao was heartless. Was it really heartless? At his level, he knew better than anyone else. However, what the ruler did not expect was that when he was about to let the light enter Nguyen Tan Lan's soul, he found that he did not need to do anything extra. Nguyen Tan Lan was far more real than the ruthless great Tao that she appeared to be on the surface. It was just that she had suppressed it in her heart. Now that Chen Hao was suddenly taken away, Her true feelings directly erupted. Even her master's ruthless great Tao sound just now broke through. The ruler also saw this, so he put away the immortal light that was opposite to Nguyen Tan Lan's masters, but was hundreds and thousands of times more powerful. Senior. In the city lord's palace in Immortal Scripture City, Chen Hao, who was wrapped in immortal light, was brought here. When he saw an old man sitting cross-legged on one side of a seemingly ordinary tea table and displaying his tea ceremony skills with a focused expression, he was rather surprised. However, he still called out respectfully, "Little friend, don't call me senior. It's too much for the old man. Although you are weak now, this is only your endless cycle of reincarnation. Sit." Chapter 10:12. The endless cycle of reincarnation is a new life. Before I truly awaken, you're still my senior. You're pressuring me. Chen Hao frowned slightly. That's good. You have to remember that it's not that the old man is looking down on you, it's that your state of mind can't bear it for the time being. Sit down and talk. Senior, why are you so afraid of me? It's just the endless cycle of reincarnation. This is my new life and also my lifetime. That's your current state of mind, not your true state of mind. When you truly awaken, you'll know that the old man's current thoughts are for the future of the billions of lives in the entire vast thousand worlds. The old man can't have any mishaps. Alright. Senior, what do you plan to do with me? This is what the old man wanted to tell you. You've finally broken through the immortal scripture holy land. Since he promised you, the old man will naturally let you enter. He won't have any demands on you. But 10 years later, well, the immortal scripture holy land is 1,000 years later. The old man will directly erase all your imprints in the vast thousand worlds and send you to the Hongmeng domain. Hongmeng domain. Chen Hao frowned slightly. Senior, please tell me more about the Hongmeng domain. I've just awakened. With my previous strength, I didn't have any plans to enter the Hongmeng domain, so I know very little. That's not a problem. The old man did this to protect the vast thousand worlds. After all, we're not the great world of Xiandi. We're very weak. You're an outsider, so you can't be imprinted in the vast thousand worlds. In fact, except for powerful existences like the great world of Xiandi, all the vast thousand worlds are the same. They can't let outsiders know their true location. The Hongmeng domain exists in every vast thousand world, but it's an existence that's independent of the vast thousand worlds. It was also a realm that Daluo Jingxian had to enter when he ascended to the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. You can comprehend the origin of Hongmeng Qi, obtain the mark of the macro world, and condense the prototype of the macro world in your mind. When the prototype of your macro world is close to perfection and triggers Heaven's punishment to advance to the Hongmeng realm, Heaven's punishment will open the Milky Way tunnel that connects the 9 heavens and 10 earths and send you back to the boundless world before you entered. After Old Man erased your mark in the boundless world of chaos, Heaven's punishment will not send you back to the boundless world of chaos when you advance to the Hongmeng realm. Then where will we be teleported to? Chen Hao was shocked. Previously, he didn't know the real situation in the Hongmeng domain. With the strength of Li Mubai and the others, they didn't dare to enter the Hongmeng domain, so their knowledge was limited. Now, the words of the immortal scripture city master made Chen Hao excited. The great world of Xiandi. Anyone who loses the mark of the boundless world will be exiled. Only the great world of Xiandi, which is open to all boundless worlds, will accept practitioners without the mark. What kind of existence is the great world of Xiandi? Chen Hao asked. He knew that since the immortal scripture city master told him this frankly, there was no possibility of changing it. Therefore, he could only learn more information. It's an existence that's hundreds and thousands of times more powerful than the Hongmeng domain. The so-called geniuses of our boundless world are reduced to the most ordinary disciples there. Anyone who is born and raised into the great world of Xiandi has an overall talent and potential that is several levels higher than our boundless world. There are countless top geniuses. This is the real reason why they dare to open it to all boundless worlds. They are not afraid of being discovered by any boundless world. They also welcome you to become a member of their boundless world, regardless of strength or talent. As long as you can survive. That place is hell for the mediocre and heaven for the strong. If you can come back alive from there, you will at least become a Tao-severing perfected immortal. The immortal scripture city master looked at Chen Hao's eyes that were no longer empty. Seeing that there was no fear in Chen Hao's expression other than excitement, he praised him in his heart and continued, "However, there are many who dare to go there, but only a few who can come back. Especially when one's realm is higher, the chances of coming back are lower." On the contrary, in the Hongming domain, the cultivators who directly stepped into the great world of Xiandi when they triggered heaven's punishment to advance to the Hongming domain have a higher chance of coming back. Zhou Qinglong, Yin Xian, Xiang Tiange, and the other 8 people are the people that the old man is going to send to the great world of Xiandi. It's also because of this that they haven't stepped into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm until now. They have to condense the embryonic form of the great world of Xiandi to the most perfect level of their own talent. Only then can they have greater improvement and the possibility of coming back. Of course, the old man won't erase their imprints related to the vast thousand chaotic worlds. Otherwise, they really won't be able to come back. When their heaven's punishment appears in the Milky Way tunnel that connects the 9 heavens and 10 earths, there will be 2 paths. One will directly return to the vast thousand chaotic worlds, and the other will enter the great world of Xiandi. As for you, after the old man erases your imprint in the vast thousand chaotic worlds, you can only enter the vast thousand chaotic worlds. Is it possible to return to the vast thousand chaotic worlds before the endless cycle of reincarnation? This is impossible. Before the cycle of reincarnation, since you connected the 9 heavens and 10 earths to enter other vast thousand chaotic worlds, then before you fully awaken, it's impossible for your original vast thousand chaotic worlds imprint to appear. Unless what? Unless you originally came from the great world of Xiandi. However, the probability of this is almost 0. Although your talent and potential are definitely qualified to be a genius disciple of the great world of Xiandi, no practitioner from the great world of Xiandi would define the endless cycle of reincarnation as a low-level vast thousand chaotic worlds. That's simply meaningless. Senior, have you been to the great world of Xiandi? Of course I have, and I go there often. Your master, Duan Ziyu, has also been there. Basically, all the top experts in the vast thousand chaotic worlds have been there, but only the old man dares to go there often. This has nothing to do with realm and strength. Wherever you go, you will only face opponents of the same realm as you. That's a world with absolute laws, and no one will violate them. The most suitable place is the true genius. That's a paradise for practitioners to improve rapidly. Duan Ziyu was the name of the 5th great elder. Oh, thank you for your advice, Senior. You seem to be looking forward to it. You don't have any objections to what the old man has done? Of course not. Different standpoints naturally make different considerations. If I were you, I would make the same decision as you. What's more, I want a wider stage, Chen Hao said without hesitation. He was indeed looking forward to it and was very excited, but it was not as simple as he said. It was not entirely because of the great world of the immortal emperor. Pursuing the peak of martial arts was his obsession. The great world of Xiandi indeed made him yearn for it, but what he was really looking forward to was what would happen when he triggered the heavenly punishment in the Hongmeng domain. Because he was not the so-called endless cycle of reincarnation of the immortal scripture city. Chapter 1013. Li Mubai was taken away by the master of the immortal scripture city. Don't tell me he won't be given a chance to enter the sacred land of the immortal scripture? It shouldn't be. The master summoned 9 monstrous geniuses to stop him, but they couldn't stop him. There's no reason not to let him enter at this time. Who knows? Nguyen Tan Lan is a little pitiful. In the void, the disciples who had obtained the qualifications to enter the sacred land of the immortal scripture and were also rushing back to their palaces to wait for sunset to arrive. They stared blankly at Nguyen Tan Lan, who was standing in the void. When the master sent out 2 beams of immortal light to envelop the 2 of them, it attracted the attention of these cultivators. By now, basically everyone already knew about Li Mubai's situation. He could guess the basic reason why the master had taken him away. He's really quite pitiful. It said that on the day when Tan Lan obtained the 3 treasures of the immortal scripture, the 2 of them were only Tao companions in name. It's really a pity. They just paid the price of their primordial Yin body and became true Tao companions, but they're going to be separated forever. What do you know? I heard from the disciples of the Hunyuan sect that Nguyen Tan Lan and Li Mubai had no interaction at all before entering the secret grotto heaven of the Hunyuan sect. Before that, Li Mubai was just a nobody in the Hunyuan sect, and Nguyen Tan Lan was a genius of the Hunyuan sect. It was impossible for them to have any interaction at all. But when Li Mubai entered the perverted demonic realm in the secret grotto heaven, Nguyen Tan Lan had always been by his side. Perhaps at that time, Nguyen Tan Lan saw enough benefits from Li Mubai's rise. Probably. I'm a little suspicious that Nguyen Tan Lan obtained the 3 treasures of the immortal scripture because of Li Mubai. Think about it, they were only Tao companions in name before, but after obtaining the 3 treasures of the immortal scripture, with Nguyen Tan Lan's temperament, how could she not know how great her value was? But when did she give her primordial Yin body to Li Mubai? It's obvious that Li Mubai can give her more room for improvement. And everyone saw the battle of these 9 days. It's really a changed day. What's the use of saying this? Look at her now. Does she look like she's doing this for the sake of benefits? That's true. She's really pitiful, like this. Nguyen Tan Lan stood in the void in a daze. Her eyes were still fixed on the direction Li Mubai was taken by the immortal light, and she murmured Nguyen Tan Lan's name. Her beautiful face, which was not stunning but was very attractive, was covered with sparkling tears. Anyone could see that at this moment, Nguyen Tan Lan must be heartbroken. Moreover, she must have fallen in love with Li Mubai, and not for benefits. At least, no matter whether it was before or not, it was definitely not for benefits now. Mubai. But, Mubai, Nguyen Tan Lan's voice was almost numb. She allowed her emotions to spread and her mind to be filled with his figure. The 100 years of cultivation together in the cave of the secret realm, but there was no communication. After stepping into the immortal Sutra city, his subconscious dependence on her like a newborn baby. She obtained the immortal Sutra magic treasure. She almost died because of Li Mubai and the fusion of Yin and Yang in order to save her life. Li Mubai's empty eyes filled every corner of her mind. She had always thought that she wanted to gain more from him. She had always thought that it was a coincidence and that she was forced to give her primordial Yin body to him. She did not care, but now, when the real parting was destined to be separated by thousands of galaxies, and the hope of seeing him again was so slim that it was close to none, she felt her heart ache. She knew that it was against her heartless state of mind, but at this time, she could not resist her own heart. Unfortunately, whether she had understood it long ago or now, it was meaningless. At least, that was what she thought in the depths of her heart. The ending was destined from the beginning. But her heart could never go back to the past. Humph, serves you right. A figure in the crowd looked at Nguyen Tan Lan with a little gloating. It was Zhang Chong. When he learned that Li Mubai was an outsider, he was first surprised, then excited. Especially when he learned that Li Mubai would not be able to continue staying in the vast thousand chaotic world, he was overjoyed. At this moment, after Li Mubai was taken away by the immortal light emitted by the controller, he felt even better when he saw Nguyen Tan Lan's soulless and painful appearance. Sidu Qian was rejected. I Zhang Chong may not be. After all, I am younger and have just obtained the immortal sutra magic treasure. My potential is endless. If I can get Nguyen Tan Lan. A crazy look flashed across Zhang Chong's face. Especially when he thought about how Li Mubai's woman would look like when he rode her under his body, he was extremely excited. He did not have the strength to compete with Li Mubai, and now he had no chance. If he could vent on Li Mubai's woman, especially on the woman who had fallen in love with him, how happy would that be? A flowing light suddenly appeared beside Nguyen Tan Lan as fast as lightning. Zhang Chong could not help it. However, although he was impulsive and irritable, Nguyen Tan Lan's strength was not something he could compete with. What he wanted to do was to take advantage of the situation. Senior Qing Lan. Zhang Chong suppressed the restlessness in his heart and said softly. Staring at Nguyen Tan Lan, whose face was covered in tears and whose eyes were glazed over, he felt more and more that if he could do it, it would be a very, very exciting thing. Don't be sad. Even without him, I, your junior brother, will take good care of you. Although I am a little weak now, I will definitely be very strong in the future. Zhang Chong said as he tried to pull Nguyen Tan Lan, who did not react at all. He did not dare to go too far in front of everyone, but it should not be a problem to take advantage of her and take her away to appease her. Perhaps if he won her favor, it would be done quickly. Scram! But at this moment, a voice suddenly broke through the air like a thunderclap. A flowing light directly blocked between Nguyen Tan Lan and Zhang Chong at an incredible speed. Huang, brother Huang, what are you doing? Under the terrifying pressure, Zhang Chong's soul was almost shaken out by the scram, and his voice trembled as he retreated. With your face, you want to take care of Miss Ruan? Wipe your saliva and scram. If we were not in Xianjing City, you would already be a corpse. Huang Tunhua stared fiercely at Zhang Chong and said coldly. Zhang Chong's face suddenly turned ashen, and he was stunned for a full 10 seconds. He did not dare to let out a fart, and directly walked over with his head and face covered in dust. The other cultivators watched this dramatic scene unfold before their eyes. Although Zhang Chong hid it very well, when he approached Nguyen Tan Lan, most people could clearly see the lewd look in his eyes. It had to be said that this guy was really a bit of an idiot, and he did not have a brain at all. But no one expected that Huang Tianhua, the youngest monstrous genius of the Chaos Academy, would appear. Chapter 10:14. Huang Tianhua's position in the hearts of the people was definitely no less than that of the 9 great evildoers. Although his current strength was not as good as the 9 great evildoers, he was a rising bright star. His future achievements might not be comparable to those of the 9 great evildoers. After Zhang Chong left dejectedly, Huang Tianhua's expression slowly changed. He turned to look at Nguyen Tan Lan with deep sympathy and heartache in his eyes. He did not disturb Nguyen Tan Lan, but stood quietly at the side, as if he was guarding her. Many of the cultivators were shocked when they saw this. They still remembered that when Nguyen Tan Lan had obtained the second Immortal Sutra magic treasure, Huang Tianhua had appeared and expressed his love in front of countless people. However, Nguyen Tan Lan had rejected him on the grounds that Li Mubai was her Taoist companion. At that time, Nguyen Tan Lan still had the body of primordial Yin. Huang Tianhua had also acted very carefree. He had not been dissatisfied with Nguyen Tan Lan's rejection. On the contrary, he had said that he wanted to make friends with Li Mubai. In the eyes of many people, Huang Tianhua was confident, and he had not given up on Nguyen Tan Lan. But now, Nguyen Tan Lan was a real woman, and Li Mubai had obtained her body of primordial Yin. Then, at this moment, why did Huang Tianhua appear again beside Nguyen Tan Lan, and why did he look at her with such a gaze? Those who could stay in the Immortal Sutra City at this moment were the top geniuses of the vast thousand chaotic world. Although they knew that Nguyen Tan Lan had 3 Immortal Sutra magic treasures, and her aura was extremely strong at this moment, and she definitely had a very powerful future, few of them were willing to be Li Mubai's successor. Who would be able to bear such a loss of face? If in the future, when their potential was exhausted, there would be no problem in secretly dating. After all, at that time, he would definitely reap a lot of benefits from the yin and yang of Nguyen Tan Lan. However, the most devilish Huang Tianhua actually appeared beside Nguyen Tan Lan at this time, and even stared at her with that kind of gaze. Miss Ruan is my Huang Tianhua's friend. If she is willing, she will be my Dao companion, my only Dao companion. If any of you have any ulterior motives, don't blame me, Huang Tianhua, for being impolite. These words were transmitted to all of you. However, it's not that I, Huang Tianhua, want to hide anything. It's just that I don't want Miss Ruan to have any prejudice against me. Huang Tianhua suddenly glanced at the cultivators not far away and transmitted his voice to everyone's ears. He was already handsome, but at this moment his eyes were shining with cold, killing intent. He wanted to let everyone know that he was not joking, but was serious. This made everyone even more dumbfounded. In particular, some young female disciples looked at Nguyen Tan Lan with eyes that were no longer pitiful, but jealous. Why do I feel that Brother Huang doesn't seem like he's trying to obtain a greater improvement? I have the same feeling. However, for such a devilish genius, even if he's faking his emotions, we can't see through it. Perhaps he really doesn't care and has really fallen in love. Several disciples of the Chaos Academy secretly conversed. Sidu Qian clenched his fists tightly, but soon loosened them again. He knew that even without Li Mubai, Nguyen Tan Lan was not someone he could touch. It could be seen from the way the other disciples of the Chaos Academy alienated him. Mubai, T. Nguyen Tan Lan's sluggish eyes suddenly lit up, and she immediately turned into a stream of light and flew toward the palace that the disciples of the immortal scripture city lived in. Huang Tianhua was slightly taken aback by the instantaneous speed that seemed like teleportation. Soon after, Huang Tianhua quickly followed. So fast. It seems to contain the aura of the great teleportation technique. Let's go. At this time, the onlooking cultivators also left one after another and returned to their respective palaces. Mubai. When Nguyen Tan Lan appeared at the entrance of the palace, she raised the token, opened the palace door, and closed it immediately. She looked like she had lost her soul, as if she had gone crazy. Huang Tianhua watched Nguyen Tan Lan enter the palace before shaking his head and disappearing into the void. In the palace, Nguyen Tan Lan went to the cultivation room, the sacred bath, the bedroom, and the hall. Under the laws of space and time, after an unknown period of time, she suddenly burst into tears. She squatted on the ground, curled up her body, and tore at her hair. The immortal scripture sacred ground is about to open. All disciples, please come to the City Lord's mansion immediately. The City Lord's mansion was also the mansion of the controller. The door to Ruan Qinglan's palace quickly opened. Her fine black hair was once again neatly combed and coiled up. In just half a day, her expression and gaze seemed to have changed into a completely different person. She was no longer the same person. This kind of change surprised many curious people. Even Huang Tianhua was surprised. That was because there was no longer any sadness in her eyes. Instead, there was only a kind of determination. Huang Tianhua leaped to Nguyen Tan Lan's side. Miss Ruan, thank you. Nguyen Tan Lan did not stop. Instead, she sped up and left these two words. Huang Tianhua frowned slightly. He paused and shook his head, tactfully not following her, even though he had the ability to. Soon, everyone arrived at the City Lord's mansion, which was shrouded in immortal light. Nguyen Tan Lan stared unblinkingly at the core of the City Lord's mansion, where the immortal light was growing stronger and stronger. Even though it was her first time here, she could be sure that it was the door to the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra that was slowly opening. Dao companions who wanted to travel together were already holding hands tightly. Friends who wanted to travel together were also doing the same. Miss Ruan, the pressure in the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra is very strong. If one travels alone, at least half of his energy and time will be used to resist the pressure. However, it is more important for us to comprehend the Immortal Sutra. I don't mean anything else. If you are willing, you can come with us. This way, if we take turns resisting the pressure, we will reap greater rewards. Thank you for your kindness, Nguyen Tan Lan said directly without any change in her gaze. All right, Huang Tianhua said helplessly. Buzz. An hour later, dazzling immortal light and terrifying pressure suddenly gushed out. The door to the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra had finally opened. The sacred land of the Immortal Sutra has opened. Please enter immediately. Chi. There was no need for a reminder. Figures rushed in one after another. The moment they entered the pressure of the immortal light, they seemed to have merged into an endless whirlpool and disappeared instantly. At this moment, Nguyen Tan Lan did not move at all. She stared with wide eyes at every figure that entered the sacred land of the Immortal Sutra. Please enter quickly. You only have 10 seconds. At this moment, a stream of light suddenly descended from the void. Nguyen Tan Lan, who had released all her divine sense to sense, suddenly raised her head. Chapter 10:15. The familiar figure, the familiar face, and the familiar empty eyes flashed past. The last glance was fixed on Nguyen Thanh Lan's eyes. "Mubai." She did not shout or send a voice transmission. Only her eyes shone with an incomparably determined light. She suddenly chased after the stream of light and entered the entrance of the Immortal Sutra sacred land. She's truly a rare woman. What Nguyen Thanh Lan did not know was that Chen Hao, who passed by in a flash, had also seen her and deliberately sized her up carefully. Nguyen Thanh Lan's appearance made him sigh in admiration, making him feel even less burdened. He knew that she did not enter first because she was waiting for him to take a look. Perhaps it was just a look. Being lucky in love doesn't mean that all women will fall for him. Fortunately, it's not that bad. My worries were unnecessary. The moment Nguyen Thanh Lan entered, Huang Tianhua also directly merged into the immortal light. The Immortal Sutra sacred land, unless they merged into one when entering, would be teleported to an independent area. Nguyen Thanh Lan knew that that glance was their farewell. His empty eyes might not have seen her at all. She did not shout or send a voice transmission. It was meaningless. Stepping onto the peak of martial arts was still her obsession, but now she had an additional goal. Although the hope was slim, or perhaps impossible, she resolutely merged the two. This made her martial arts heart firmer, more substantial and more intense. Little did she know, they had missed it once and missed it again. One deliberately pretended to seal all her divine senses, and the other was silently played by fate, brushing past each other just like that. Good temperament. The master of the Immortal Sutra City was also paying attention to Nguyen Thanh Lan's every move. If Nguyen Thanh Lan's performance was too intense, he would definitely make a move. After all, if Chen Hao proposed to take Nguyen Thanh Lan away at this time, he really could not refuse. That was not what he wanted. If Nguyen Thanh Lan stayed in the chaotic universe, she would become a bargaining chip in the future. There was no point in leaving. Similarly, if Nguyen Thanh Lan had a new Dao companion here, it would also be meaningless. This was also the reason why he didn't make a move when he saw Nguyen Thanh Lan's true feelings. Such a thing might seem insignificant, but if something really went wrong, it could become the key. I hope that kid doesn't comprehend too much. The Immortal Sutra Holy Land. Even the controller, old man, only reached the 99th level. The previous controller reached the 104th level, and the previous controller reached the 115th level. How many levels are there? This was a mystery. No one knew. The uniqueness of the Immortal Scripture Holy Land was no less than that of the Hongmeng domain, which connected the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The boundless chaos world was born because of it. In the endless years until now, the highest record of comprehension in the vast thousand worlds was 115 levels. Buzz. After a terrifying distortion in space-time, Chen Hao appeared in an ice-blue, beautiful, and fantastical space. However, it was a narrow, spherical space with a diameter of only 10,000 feet. The space was surrounded by azure blue like the sky and the sea. The sparkling waves were the Tao traces of the Immortal Sutra, containing 3 different kinds of pressure. This was obviously the amalgamation of the 3 great Immortal Sutras. The thick spirit chi of heaven and earth and the majestic pressure of the Immortal Sutra were not very strong for Chen Hao, but they made him excited. Almost instantly, he sensed that this was not at all comparable to the pressure of the pagoda steel in the secret grotto heaven of the Hunyuan sect. This was not about the size of the pressure, but the mystery contained in the pressure. This was the most essential mystery of the 3 great Immortal Sutras. The secret grotto heaven was obtained by the masters of the Hunyuan sect through their own Immortal Sutras. Comprehending the secret grotto heaven's pagoda steel was like catching a fish, and comprehending the 3 great Immortal Sutras of the origin was like catching a fish. Only by comprehending the origin could one comprehend a divine ability that truly belonged to oneself and was suitable for oneself. Phew. As long as I can comprehend one of the 3 Immortal Sutra Tao traces to the limit of this space, I can enter the next level. It's very simple. Although the secret grotto heaven's pagoda steel was comprehended by the masters of the past, I can more or less comprehend some of the true Immortal Sutras by tracing the source. Buzz. the space between Chen Hao's eyebrows suddenly flickered, and the spiritual altar unscrupulously bloomed. This is the aura of the Earth Desolation Sutra. This is the aura of the Heavenly Emperor Sutra. This is the aura of the Primal Chaos Sutra. This is the most basic Immortal Sutra, so powerful. Chen Hao was excited. No matter how strong his ability to trace the source was, when faced with the three great Immortal Sutras, Chen Hao could not directly comprehend the true Immortal Sutra from the Tao traces left behind by others. But now, the mysterious aura in front of him was the most basic origin of the three great Immortal Sutras. Although the first level was very weak, it was the cornerstone of the three great Immortal Sutras. Phew! I must do my best to improve myself in the next 1,000 years under the laws of space and time. The Hongming Domain, the Hongming Realm, the great world of Xian Di. Similarly, I can also return to the Primal Chaos Universe. And my current strength is still too weak. Boom! Chen Hao no longer hesitated. His sealed emotions gushed out from the immortal light of the Tao manifestation immortal tree in the great world of his mind, causing Chen Hao to enter a frenzied state. Chi. Terrifying devouring power was displayed once again, but this time, Chen Hao did not blindly devour. Instead, he devoured for a period of time and comprehended with all his might for a period of time. Only by truly comprehending would he be able to enter the next level, which was even more powerful. Swallowing without thinking was not something that could be done at any time. The 10th level. Phew! In the beautiful space, Nguyen Tan Lan's eyes shone brightly, and her beautiful face shone with excitement. 300 years, 10 levels. From what she knew, Sidu Qian, who had been here many times, had only comprehended up to the 8th level. However, when she came here for the first time, she only used 300 years out of 1,000 years to comprehend the 10th level. This kind of progress could be said to be astonishing. All of this was given to me by you. But it's been 300 years. You should have reached the 20th or 30th level, or perhaps even deeper, right? I don't believe it. The peak of martial arts is elusive, but it is the goal and obsession of all cultivators. Someone will be able to achieve it. When we meet again, there is no need for me to reach the peak of martial arts. As long as I am strong enough, I can do it. What is there to fear? I can definitely do it. Buzz. Nguyen Tan Lan's body shone even brighter as she immersed herself in comprehending the 10th level. The 106th level. Nguyen Tan Lan did not know that when she entered the 10th level and guessed that Chen Hao might have reached the 20th or 30th level, Chen Hao had stepped into the 106th level like a hot knife through butter. On average, he reached one level in less than 3 years. Even Chen Hao was extremely surprised. He was not surprised by his own comprehension speed, but by the origin of the three great immortal scriptures. It seemed to originate from the primary principle of the great Tao. In the beginning, he was not sure. However, as his comprehension increased, passages of the primary principle of the great Tao appeared in his mind from time to time. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 1016. Since Chen Hao had realized the importance of the Grand Tao, the Grand Tao outline had practically been running through his cultivation. Whether it was tempering his true essence or comprehending profound talisman markings or ultimate techniques, he only had to spare a strand of his mind to recite it, and it would allow his efficiency to increase by several times. At the beginning, Chen Hao was utterly unable to understand it. Even now, he could only comprehend a little bit. Most of the time, he knew the meaning but didn't know the reason. He only understood the literal meaning and couldn't be considered to have comprehended it at all. But now, starting from the most basic profoundness of the three great immortal scriptures, he went from shallow to deep step by step. When he comprehended a certain level, a sentence from the Grand Tao outline suddenly appeared in his mind. Moreover, it just happened to confirm his previous comprehension. Although there was still a slight discrepancy, it allowed Chen Hao to have a deeper understanding of the Grand Tao outline. It also allowed Chen Hao to be sure that the three great immortal scriptures definitely originated from the Grand Tao outline. Moreover, It was an extraordinary existence that had a profound understanding of the Grand Tao outline. Under such circumstances, Chen Hao was like a fish in water. He'd completely forgotten the passage of time, and he'd even forgotten that his body and soul were enduring more and more terrifying pressure. Especially after he arrived at the 60th level, even if it was his abnormal body and soul, the pain he endured was rather enormous. However, he didn't notice it at all, and his mind was completely immersed in comprehension. The Grand Tao outline in his mind allowed Chen Hao to comprehend the three great immortal scriptures at a shocking speed. Moreover, the three great immortal scriptures' comprehension from shallow to deep allowed Chen Hao to deepen his comprehension of the Grand Tao outline. They complemented and promoted each other. What a terrifying pressure! 300 years, 106th level. It was only when Chen Hao entered the 106th level that Chen Hao was forced to jump out from the deep level of comprehension for the first time. The terrifying pressure had practically pressed down on him to the point he couldn't breathe. His body and soul were in extreme pain. Especially after he jumped out of the selfless state of comprehension, he felt that the pressure had expanded by 10 times or 100 times in an instant. Have I reached the limit of what I can endure? Bang! Chen Hao forcefully agitated the energy, true essence, and soul in his body to alleviate the pain at this moment. At the same time, for the first time, he consciously and madly devoured the dense world energy and pressure. That's not right. At this moment, Chen Hao suddenly frowned. 106 levels, and the pressure increases with each level. It's impossible for it to increase so much all of a sudden. This is because it's beyond my selflessness. It's because I'm not focused enough. It's not because I've reached my limit. Otherwise, my soul and body wouldn't be in perfect condition. That means I'm far from reaching my limit. Thinking up to this point, Chen Hao actually retracted his essence, spirit, Zhenyuan, and soul power, allowing himself to once again fall into the terrifying pressure. Facing the pressure head-on. Chi. In an instant, Chen Hao felt that every cell in his body and every strand of thought in his soul was being crazily suppressed, as if he had fallen into a situation where he could collapse at any time. However, Chen Hao's eyes were wide open. Other than seeing himself break out in a cold sweat, there was nothing out of the ordinary. True selflessness is my true self. The current me's endurance, especially my willpower's endurance, is clearly far inferior to when I was truly selfless. Endure, I'll endure until I'm used to this degree of pain. Chen Hao put down all his thoughts and continued to stare. He didn't use the slightest bit of energy, didn't use any divine ability, and just fought against this terrifying pressure. Every minute and every second felt extremely long, but Chen Hao clenched his teeth and endured. There was no doubt that this was a crazy and unreasonable thing to do, but this wasn't the first time Chen Hao had tempered his willpower like this. Facing pain head-on was something he had done at a very low level. Now that he was in the Daluo Golden Wonderland, he was once again using the simplest, cruelest, and most effective method to destroy himself. 1 day, 2 days, 10 days, 1 month, 3 months. The pain his body and soul endured became stronger and stronger, more and more painful. After enduring for nearly half a year, Chen Hao's body and soul began to violently tremble at almost the same time, and then his mind exploded with a boom. At this moment, Chen Hao felt as if he had become an immortal. His entire body and soul were filled with endless comfort, as if all the pressure had disappeared, and there was no more pain to speak of. It was also at this moment that Chen Hao's glabella shone with a dazzling light. His soul blossomed on its own, sparkling and translucent like jade, untainted by even a speck of dust. Breakthrough. Chen Hao's blood-stained mouth slowly cracked open, revealing a brilliant smile. This was a breakthrough in willpower. Buzz. Naturally, Chen Hao entered the state of thoughtless tranquility and selflessness in an extremely relaxed manner. His entire mind was instantly integrated into the mysteries contained in the pressure of the Immortal Sutra, and he began to comprehend once more. In the blink of an eye, another 300 years had passed. Chen Hao once again jumped out of the deep level of comprehension on his own. 246th level. It's much faster than before I woke up last time. Very good, continue. With the previous experience, Chen Hao didn't even think about it this time. He retracted all his energy and faced the boundless pain head-on. This time, it took him a full 10 years to break through the limits of his willpower. Sensing the endless comfort of the bitter end, Chen Hao once again entered the selfless state of cultivation, but, boom! What's going on? When Chen Hao comprehended all the mysteries of the three major immortal sutras to the extreme, and thought that he was about to enter the 247th level, the space he was in suddenly surged with endless immortal light and a terrifying pressure of Tao laws. It was completely out of Chen Hao's control, and his entire body was enveloped by a mysterious force, rushing into the endless void with a boom. What's going on? Almost at the same time, in the City Lord's mansion of the Immortal Sutra City, the phantom of the City Lord was suddenly shocked. With a swoosh, he rushed out of the palace and looked at the terrifying surge of the Immortal Sutra Sacred Land's exit with a horrified expression. It had only been 6 years since Chen Hao and the others entered the Immortal Sutra Sacred Land. The entrance and exit opened at the same time, and they opened once every 10 years. It was completely out of the control of the City Lord of the Immortal Sutra City, and there had never been the slightest error. At this time, how could the exit of the Immortal Sutra Sacred Land emit such a terrifying fluctuation, as if it was about to open? But it actually opened? Chi! What? The phantom of the City Lord of the Immortal Sutra City suddenly widened his eyes, looking at the figure shooting out from the exit that seemed to connect the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Li Mu Bai. What's going on? Chen Hao and the City Lord of the Immortal Sutra City looked at each other and asked in unison. How did I come out? How did you come out? The two said at the same time again. Chapter 10:17. Didn't you summon me out? Chen Hao frowned and said, agreed to let me finish comprehending this realm. Forget it, since that's the case, send me away. How could I summon you out? I can't control the immortal scripture Holy Land at all. It opens once every 10 years and no one can change it. Besides, since I promised to let you in, I can't go back on my word. The immortal scripture city master was extremely shocked. He didn't even call himself old man. He directly stared at Chen Hao and said, That's strange. I was about to enter the next level. Why was I suddenly sent out? Chen Hao saw that the other party was even more shocked than him. It didn't seem like he was lying to him. Could it be that I sent you out? Could it be that the immortal scripture Holy Land sensed that you were an outsider and didn't allow you to continue comprehending? This? I'm not sure. What a pity. The 3 great immortal scriptures are incomparably mysterious. There are still more than 3 years left. I can still comprehend a lot. Chen Hao said regretfully. 246th level. The last sentence that appeared in his mind was the Grand Tao outline, but it was only about 2/3 of the Grand Tao outline. How many levels have you comprehended? Hearing Chen Hao's words, the immortal scripture city master's phantom couldn't help but ask. Not many levels. How many levels does the immortal scripture Holy Land have? Chen Hao didn't know anything about the situation in the immortal scripture Holy Land. Li Mubai and the others also had blank memories. I don't know. Yes, no one knows how many levels there are in the immortal scripture city. Because no one can comprehend it thoroughly. How many levels have you comprehended? The immortal scripture city master asked again. He didn't want Li Mubai, an outsider, to comprehend too much. However, he also knew that with Li Mubai's talent and terrifying immortal fate, he would definitely comprehend much more than other people. It's more than 200 levels. What? 200? More than 200 levels? You mean more than 200 words, right? More than 200 words. Chen Hao was slightly stunned. More than that? I'm talking about levels. What a pity, there's at least a third. Plop. Senior. What surprised Chen Hao was that the immortal scripture city lord's shadow actually sat down on the ground and seemed to be staring at him in shock. Don't call me senior. I'll send you off. Before you leave, please accept my kneeling. Bang. What made Chen Hao even more dumbfounded was that the master of the immortal scripture city actually knelt before him with a bang and said, "I represent the vast thousand realms of Hongmeng. If one day if you come back, please don't make things difficult for the billions of beings here. We are very weak." "Oh, right, I understand why you came out. It's because you finished comprehending, and there is no deeper level for you to comprehend. I know that you should have come out to play. The endless cycle of reincarnation is child's play to you." Chen Hao's eyes widened. Looking at the incoherent controller's phantom, he was frightened by the old man's actions. Fuck, he was just a Daluo Jinxian. He was not even an ant in front of him, and he was actually kowtowing to him? "Senior, you can't do that." Plop. Men had gold under their knees, but Chen Hao still knelt down without hesitation after a brief moment of surprise. Other than that, he really could not think of any other action that could bear the old man's kowtow. Buzz. However, at this moment, a beam of immortal light suddenly lifted Chen Hao up. Chen Hao simply could not resist, nor could he resist. Bang bang bang. "Senior, don't kill me." The master of the immortal scripture city knocked his head on the ground 3 times in a row, and the earth shook. While kowtowing, he said, "You have not awakened yet, and do not know how strong you are. I'm kneeling to the real you, not the current you. I only hope that, in the future, I can show some respect to the vast thousand realms of chaos where you once lived. I have already erased all your imprints in the vast thousand realms of chaos. Oh. I hope we don't meet. If we really meet, I hope you will be merciful." "Senior, what are you talking about? You will understand after you awaken. Goodbye." Buzz. After the phantom of the master of the immortal scripture city finished speaking, he suddenly waved his hand, and a powerful space-time gate appeared in the void. Immediately, Chen Hao felt endless immortal light binding him and sending him directly into it. "Am I that scary?" Chen Hao smiled bitterly and entered the space-time tunnel. After the master of the immortal scripture city saw the space-time tunnel disappear, he stood up from the ground with cold sweat. It was like a dream, but he knew that all of this was real. Kneeling. He did not complain at all. There was no pretense. The great world of Xiandi. The ancient legend is true. To be able to comprehend all 3 great immortal scriptures. After awakening, won't he be able to? Which of the legends is he? I hope, sigh. Shaking his head, the master of the immortal scripture city did not dare to think about it anymore. Buzz. In the space-time gate where space-time was distorted, Chen Hao felt that several hours had passed. The space-time tunnel suddenly shook violently, and Chen Hao appeared in a new world. In the wilderness, there was sky and earth, but it was hazy. Chaos began to open, and Hongmeng appeared for the first time. The world was filled with rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth. In this spiritual energy of heaven and earth, there was an aura that did not exist outside the Hongmeng domain, Hongmeng Qi. Of course, Chen Hao could not sense it at this moment. Hongmeng domain. Is this the Hongmeng domain that every vast thousand domains has? It is indeed different from the vast thousand domains. Chen Hao looked at the surrounding environment, his handsome face shining with a touch of excitement. A new beginning, a new domain. No one could monitor him, and he did not have to worry about any high-level cultivators appearing here. Although those below the level of the Daluo Golden Wonderland could appear here, they were not allowed to enter the vast thousand chaotic domains. Only those who had reached the great perfection of the Daluo Golden Wonderland could enter here. As long as the Supreme Hongmeng stepped in here, they would activate the Star Core Tunnel and be directly transported to the great world of Xiandi, or immediately return to the vast thousand chaotic domains. Phew! I want to enter the Hongmeng domain as soon as possible. It's time to... Chen Hao turned into a stream of light, and his powerful soul perception swept out in an instant, frantically spreading in all directions. A moment later, he appeared on a mountain peak with rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Here it is. Buzz. Chen Hao's glabella bloomed with a bright light, and a naked figure appeared in front of him. The body was covered with mysterious runes, and crystal light shot out in all directions. It also contained the majestic and pure vitality of the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree. Chapter 10:18. Chen Hao's original body. When he was in the demonic berserk realm, the third anima was born from his subconscious. It had completely fused with the soul of Chen Hao's original body, but because of Li Mubai's identity, the two bodies had yet to fuse. Because of this, even though Chen Hao's soul realm had reached the great circle of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, his physical body's essence, energy, and vitality couldn't match the great circle of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. Therefore, he hadn't been able to trigger even a single minor heavenly punishment. Chen Hao knew that as long as his true self's fleshly body fused with the fleshly body of the third anima, and tempered it to the great circle of the golden immortal of the great circle of the great circle of the golden immortal of the great circle 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 of golden immortal. At that time, his strength would definitely increase tremendously. Similarly, only when both his physical body and soul reached the great circle of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland could he begin to comprehend Hongmeng Qi. As for the great circle imprint in his mind, Chen Hao couldn't figure out what would happen to a special existence like himself before he obtained it. After all, because of the mysterious spiritual treasure in his mind, he had long possessed a great circle imprint in his mind. Moreover, by now, it wasn't inferior to the great circle imprint of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm cultivators. After Chen Hao's physical body stepped out of the mental space, a terrifying fluctuation suddenly flashed from between the eyebrows of Chen Hao's third-ranked physical body. It directly entered between the eyebrows of Chen Hao's physical body. Then, Chen Hao's physical body suddenly opened its eyes. Explode! Rumble! Following Chen Hao's shout, the third body suddenly exploded in a very small area, turning into a bloody mist containing terrifying energy, vitality, and essence, energy, and vitality. It directly surrounded Chen Hao's original body. Chi 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 chi, the fusion had officially begun. The vast Milky Way was dotted with stars. Countless stars formed a myriad of galaxies that crisscrossed with nebulae. It was unknown how many universes existed in the Milky Way. Cultivators, even if they were Tao-severing true immortals, could see the endless stars in the Great Thousand World. However, it was extremely difficult for them to reach the stars, especially after a certain distance of light years. It would be impossible for them to reach the stars even if they exhausted their lifespan. The only way to travel in the starry sky was to tear open the space barrier and enter the chaotic space. In this mysterious, violent, and vast chaotic space, where one could see stars falling at any time and where fragments of stars could be seen everywhere, cultivators could only instinctively sense the Great Thousand World they were in. This was because there was a cultivator's brand there. Other than that, if one wanted to enter the other great wide worlds, it would depend on luck. Being so close yet worlds apart, brushing past each other was the most normal thing. It was also for this reason that the Greater Thousand Worlds, which varied in strength, had a relatively stable space for development. If any cultivator in the chaotic space could easily sense the existence of other Greater Thousand Worlds, then only the strongest Greater Thousand World would be left behind. When powerful cultivators encountered a bottleneck that they could no longer break through in the original Greater World, they would usually choose to connect the endless samsara of the 9 heavens and 10 earths, seal their connection with the imprint of their own greater world, and enter a new greater world. Different greater worlds had different cultivation foundations and could bring samsara travelers a new cultivation system. After awakening, the cultivation systems and magical powers of the two greater worlds would collide, broadening the cultivator's vision and state of mind. It was possible to break the shackles and break through the bottleneck. However, only a few dared to do so. This was because even top experts did not know which Greater Thousand Worlds they would end up in after falling into the endless cycle of samsara. They did not even know if they could reach the level they had sealed. In such a situation, it was very likely that they would fall into an endless cycle of samsara and never wake up again. If Chen Hao was really in the endless samsara, after the master of the immortal scripture city erased his imprint in the chaotic greater world, It was certain that he could only enter the great world of Xiandi in the Hongmeng domain. However, Chen Hao was not. Without the imprint in the chaotic universe, he had the imprint in the ancient chaos universe. As for the earth, the moment he was born, he had connected the 9 heavens and 10 earths and came to the Wuji star in the ancient chaos universe. It was hard to say whether he could leave the imprint on the earth. His thick and majestic blood qi surrounded Chen Hao's body and was gradually integrated into every cell of Chen Hao's original body. As time passed, the blood qi gradually faded, and the aura released by Chen Hao's original body also became stronger and stronger. In this state of unintentional activation, the surging blood qi fluctuations could be sensed from hundreds of millions of miles away. Eh? Old man Ji, you also sensed it? Nonsense, what pure blood qi, what powerful vitality. It's very far away, at least 15 million miles. Of course I know. Otherwise, how can I say that such weak fluctuations are strong? Well, do you want to do it or not? I'm a dying man struggling at death's door. With such pure blood qi and vitality, do you think I wouldn't dare to do it? Let's go. All right, let's make it clear, this time it's 50-50. Otherwise, I won't be able to hold on for many years. Without my help, you won't be able to live for long if you meet me. Damn it, fine. The 2 old men, whose life force was dim and were clearly nearing the end of their lifespans, suddenly turned into 2 streaks of light and headed in the direction of the blood qi at an extremely terrifying speed. The primordial domain was filled with existences at the perfection stage of the golden immortal realm. There were many young monstrous geniuses, but most of them were old fellows that had been trapped there for hundreds of thousands of years or even a million years. These people were limited by their talent, comprehension, and opportunities. Some could not sense the Hongmeng qi, and some could not obtain the Great World Mark. In short, they were imprisoned in the Daluo Golden Wonderland and could not become supreme in Hongmeng. Moreover, many of these old men were near the end of their lifespans. These old men would do anything to prolong their lives. It was common for people to eat other people, especially young people, to obtain their blood qi and vitality and prolong their own lives. This was one of the biggest reasons why the Hongmeng domain was called a land of death. These old men who had lived for countless years and were imprisoned in the Daluo Golden Wonderland could be said to have raised the strength of the Daluo Golden Wonderland to their limits. They had rich combat experience and powerful combat skills. Such people were like a pack of bloodthirsty wolves in the primordial domain. Many young geniuses had become food on their plates. It was for this reason that the young Daluo Jingxian did not dare to enter unless he had absolute confidence in his own strength. Even if he had reached the Daluo Golden Wonderland, he would not dare to enter. Under normal circumstances, one could only enter after raising their combat strength and combat skills to their limits. These were usually geniuses with powerful combat strength. As for those with weaker combat strength, even if they raised their overall strength to their limits, they would not dare to enter. They would only enter when they were near the end of their lifespans. If they did not succeed, they would become one of these bloodthirsty wolves. Chapter 10:19. What a tempting smell. Why can't I sense it? It's very weak, but very tempting, very tempting. It's at least 50 million miles away from us. Let's go quickly. Otherwise, someone else will beat us to it. Alright. Chi. Several streaks of light shot through the sky. The same thing happened in a radius of a few 100 million miles. At least 10,000 people were waiting in the area where the probability of appearing was the highest, heading toward the source of the ripples. Why isn't he here yet? The distance is wrong. It seems more tempting than we thought. It's already 80 million miles away, but he's still not here. Could it be that a top genius has entered? If that's the case, we have to be careful. Soon, many of the old fellows frowned in astonishment because their judgment of the distance was completely wrong. Moreover, the difference was beyond their limits. How can there be so many top geniuses? He must be moving quickly. However, he's not as fast as us. His aura has become stronger. Chase, increase our speed. What these people didn't know was that Chen Hao hadn't moved a single inch even though he was radiating blood energy and life force. Similarly, they did not know that the bloodthirsty wolves, who were rushing over from all directions, had the same thought, which was that the young cultivator who had just entered was moving at high speed. They did not expect the other party's blood and vitality to be so unbelievably strong. They could not be blamed for this. They could only blame Chen Hao for being too monstrous. Perhaps these fellows deserved to be unlucky. As Chen Hao's two bodies merged, the blood mist became thinner and thinner. The blood and vitality that he emitted also became weaker and weaker. Under such circumstances, the old fellows who were rushing over did not even realize what kind of monstrous existence this was. Not to mention them, even the 9 great monstrous geniuses who could do as they pleased in the Grand Mist domain had to avoid Chen Hao when they saw him. Moreover, that was before Chen Hao's body had merged with his body. But now, there was no need for him to enter the state of madness. Chen Hao could handle it. We've caught up. Don't move. Fuck, why are there so many people? The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Motherfucker, no one actually made the first move? When some people were tens of thousands of miles away from Chen Hao, they were shocked to find that countless auras were rapidly approaching from all directions around Chen Hao. After sensing each other's auras, they all stopped and did not take the initiative to attack. In such a situation, the people who rushed over later did not dare to attack, and the number of old fellows increased. What a young life! This kid is a monstrous genius. If I devour and refine his blood qi, I'll be able to extend my lifespan by at least 100,000 years. Very strong. Unfortunately, there are too many of them. Let's find a few old fellows to work with. Without a fight, I'm afraid it will be difficult to obtain it. What kind of body technique is this brat cultivating? He even released the blood essence and then swallowed it back. Could it be that he has swallowed other cultivators? Who cares? Since we found this brat, we must get him. With a few more groups of people, we will have absolute confidence. Buzz. Just as nearly 10,000 old fellows, who had already lost their humanity in order to survive, began to unite and form several large armies, Chen Hao, who had already sensed the fluctuations of auras around him, did not panic at all. At this time, he still completed the integration of his body in time. Violent power, like a river bursting through a dam, flowed in every cell in his body. If these old fellows had not come, Chen Hao would have released that explosive power violently. However, at this moment, Chen Hao forcefully suppressed it. On the surface, he looked extremely calm as he slowly opened his eyes. With a light flick of his wrist, he stood up. His tall and slender body stood proudly on the mountain peak like a sword. His eyes swept across the pairs of bloodthirsty and greedy eyes. Chen Hao shook his head gently. How can he be so calm? Do we look like good people? Seeing this scene, countless people were puzzled. Boo. Humph, this brat is ours. If any of you dare to interfere, don't blame us for hunting you to death. Suddenly, an old man with the strongest aura in a group of hundreds of people suddenly said sternly. As soon as he finished speaking, the hundreds of old fellows suddenly released their terrifying auras all at once. Pa, what a joke! Why are you so determined? Do you think we are weak? Boom, boom, boom. A similarly strong army made a provocative sound at this time. This is a man-eat-man world. Suddenly, Chen Hao's indifferent voice sounded. His voice was not loud, but it completely covered the voices of all the old men. It was clearly transmitted into the ears of everyone within hundreds of thousands of miles. Everyone was shocked. Although they felt that Chen Hao's aura was extremely powerful, they had too many people, and all of them were bloodthirsty old fellows who had been on the battlefield for a long time. They had no choice. If they were not bloodthirsty, it meant that they would die. In the face of death, the most ferocious root of human nature was exposed. Survival was their only goal, and for this goal, they would pay any price. However, they did not expect this extraordinarily handsome young man, who did not show the slightest trace of fear, to display power and profundity far beyond their imagination. If you don't want to be eaten, the only way is to eat people. Voila, well said. In just 2 short sentences, countless old men deeply agreed. This was almost the law of survival in the Hongmeng domain. Chen Hao swept his gaze across the crowd as he continued, "Unfortunately, not everyone is willing to sacrifice their humanity for the sake of survival. All of you have reached this stage today because of your lack of humanity. Ignorant brat, who do you think you are? Although you are indeed a little strong, you are not qualified to lecture us. When you reach the end of your life and can't make a breakthrough, you will be even more ferocious and bloodthirsty than us. When you are about to reach the end of your life, you should be focused on making a final effort, but you have given up on prolonging your life. Since you have given up on your heart, how can you make a breakthrough?" Chen Hao said to himself. His voice contained a vast and majestic Tao sound. Every syllable was like a blooming lotus that floated into the void, shining brightly with celestial light. At this moment, among the nearly 10,000 old men, many of them looked dazed. A rare wisp of clarity appeared in their ferocious and bloodthirsty eyes. If the cultivators of the chaotic Great Thousand Domains, especially the cultivators of the other 9 galaxies, saw Chen Hao now, they would definitely not believe that this was Chen Hao, the god of slaughter who had dominated the primitive secret realm. Chapter 1020. In the face of such existences that wanted to eat him, killing God Chen Hao should have killed them coldly and violently. But today, Chen Hao temporarily suppressed the violent feeling of power brought about by the fusion of his physical body. No one knew what kind of change Chen Hao had. It originated from Chen Nan, his younger brother. The death of his loved one made him understand that even in the cruel world of cultivation, life should be cherished. Of course, this did not mean that he had lost his decisiveness to kill, nor did it mean that he would repay evil with kindness. At this moment, if Chen Hao encountered the enemy that killed Chen Nan, he would kill them all even if they were the heavenly king. He would pierce through the sky and smash through the earth. If he encountered an existence that truly threatened the lives of his family and friends, he would also kill them all. But these old men who had lost their humanity in order to survive posed no threat to him. If he could enlighten them, there would be no need to kill them. Life was precious. Even ants would struggle to survive, let alone these existences who had reached the perfection stage in the Daluo Golden Wonderland. My heart has already given up. How can I break through? Many old men murmured as a trace of clarity appeared in their eyes. Dao sound, kill him. Kill him. Don't be confused. This kid is very strong. Let's attack together. Boom. Suddenly, the 2 old men leading the 2 strongest legions simultaneously launched powerful and terrifying attacks at Chen Hao from afar. Seeing the 2 old men taking the lead to attack, several others immediately followed suit and attacked. Boom. Boom, we can't let them snatch it away. Kill. The balance was broken. The greedy, crazy, and completely devoid of humanity cultivators finally erupted. In an instant, countless destructive attacks enveloped Chen Hao in the center from all directions. Some attacked him forcefully, some attacked him from a distance, and some attacked the old men of the other legions. It was a chaotic scene. However, in this riot, there was an extremely small number of elders who remained unmoved. They still muttered Chen Hao's words, and their eyes became clearer and clearer. Then, they suddenly realized something, as if they had woken up from a nightmare. In order to survive for countless years, they had devoid of humanity and lived a life of cannibalism. This caused them to sink into deep self-blame. Was there really any meaning in living like this? Incorrigible. That. Bang. Rumble. Chi. Chen Hao, who stood tall, seemed to have expected such an outcome since long ago, and his calm and aloof expression became fierce to the extreme. He suddenly took a step forward, and the mountain beneath him was directly obliterated. There wasn't the slightest fluctuation of divine ability laws or true essence in his surroundings, and there was only surging blood chi that tore through the sky with a hiss. Bang. Ah. Bang 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 bang. Ah! With the release of pure physical strength, Chen Hao was like a lion that had charged into a flock of sheep. He had become a true god of death. Every punch and every kick was like a sharp fong. No one could escape from his pure physical strength. He didn't even use true essence or supernatural powers. This was the simplest, most brutal, and most direct attack. Chen Hao's surging blood energy was like refined steel. No matter how many terrifying attacks landed on his body, he didn't even blink. He was completely unmoved. His body seemed to have transformed into a human-shaped immortal soldier, invincible and indestructible. The terrifying power brought about by the fusion of the physical body was unleashed unscrupulously at this moment. The elders who had been awakened by Chen Hao's Dao voice all widened their eyes in horror. They couldn't believe their eyes. When the fierce wind swept past them, they were so scared that their hair stood on end. When they thought they were going to die, they found that Chen Hao had just swept past them. Condense. Buzz. In a moment, the space of Azura Hell was created. Countless cultivators who had rushed up to snatch and kill Chen Hao were scared out of their wits. When they were about to escape, Chen Hao roared and shot out a rune that resounded through the heavens and the earth. Suddenly, a majestic pressure and endless immortal light bloomed from between his eyebrows and sealed the area within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. Before Chen Hao set up the seal, less than 1,000 people in the bloodthirsty wolf pack were able to escape. The cultivators who were sealed were basically destined to become sacrifices for Chen Hao's trial after the fusion of the physical body. Whoosh 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 whoosh, however, at this moment, countless cultivators who were scared out of their wits suddenly discovered that the energy of heaven and earth above the young monstrous cultivator who was charging back and forth without being able to withstand a single blow from him was suddenly gathering in a frenzy. A terrifying wave of energy of heaven and earth also spread out in all directions at an astonishing speed. Whoosh! In an instant, wild winds wreaked havoc. The thick energy of heaven and earth transformed into rolling dark clouds. The area within a radius of 10,000 miles, 100,000 miles, 1,000,000 miles, 10 million miles. It spread out in all directions at an incredible speed. Everything became pitch black, as if the end of the world had arrived. Divine punishment. After the fusion of the physical body, Chen Hao's spiritual energy and spiritual aura were released without restraint. His minor stage divine punishment had finally appeared in the Hongmeng domain. Bam! Rumble. The terrifying turbulence of heaven and earth directly destroyed the seal that Chen Hao had formed himself. Monster. A top-notch prodigy. Run. At this moment, the elders who were so scared that they almost wet themselves frantically fled in all directions. They seized this rare opportunity to escape. Phew! The killing intent in Chen Hao's heart gradually dissipated as he raised his head to look at the void and let out a long sigh. He did not continue to chase after them. Although there were still many unsalvageable existences who would threaten countless cultivators in the future, that was not Chen Hao's problem. This was the law of the jungle in this world. Even if he killed them all, the situation would still develop in the future. No one could change that. If he encountered them, he could just kill them. If they ran away, there was no need for him to waste his energy on these weak existences. It's really fast. I just activated my spiritual energy to form the seal. When Chen Hao used his pure physical strength to kill, he did not trigger the divine punishment. However, when he activated his spiritual energy to form the seal, he did not even release it completely and directly triggered the divine punishment. This made Chen Hao slightly excited. Obviously, after the fusion of the physical body, he did not need to break in at all to enter the great perfection of the spiritual body. Furthermore, he was already at the peak of the great perfection that could not be suppressed. Then come at me more fiercely. Boom. As Chen Hao roared to the sky, his essence, qi, spirit, true yuan, soul power, and blood qi were all released wildly and unscrupulously at this moment. Buzz. Buzz buzz buzz. In an instant, the turbulence of heaven and earth became even more intense. Rolling dark clouds covered the void in a radius of tens of millions of miles, and it was still spreading at an alarming speed. If not for the fact that such a terrifying fluctuation did not contain Hongmeng Qi, all the cultivators would have thought that it was the great divine punishment for breaking through to the Hongmeng realm. Chapter 1021. Heavenly Punishment? Heavenly Punishment. Is someone ascending to the Hongmeng supremacy stage? This heavenly punishment is a condensation of the Hongmeng domain's energy. It did not cause any turbulence in the Hongmeng Qi, nor did it connect to the 9 heavens and 10 lands. All the cultivators within a radius of hundreds of millions of miles, or even billions of miles, looked toward the source of the turbulence. At first, most of them were filled with envy and jealousy. After all, the appearance of heavenly punishment here meant that someone was about to ascend to the Hongmeng realm. This was something that most ordinary cultivators would not be able to achieve even if they stayed here until they died of old age. How could they not be envious? Of course, for a small number of geniuses, the key to ascending to the Hongmeng realm was whether they were satisfied with the embryonic form of their great worlds. Even someone like Li Mubai could easily ascend to the Hongmeng realm. After all, he was a disciple of the top Hunyuan sect. In a competition like the Immortal Sutra Sacred Land, he was nothing. However, compared to 90% of the cultivators in the cultivation world, he was still much stronger. But soon, most of the cultivators sensed the turbulence caused by heavenly punishment. Although it was powerful, it did not cause any turbulence in the Hongmeng Qi, nor did it connect to the 9 heavens and 10 lands to attract energy from the outside world. Naturally, this could not be the great heavenly punishment of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. But it was precisely because of this that some of the prodigious disciples were even more shocked. How could the heavenly punishment of a minor realm be so powerful? Which prodigious prodigy stepped into the Hongmeng domain before ascending to the great circle of the Daluo Golden Wonderland? Let's go and take a look. Most of them were cultivators who had come in groups. Out of curiosity, they all turned into streams of light and flew towards the source of the heavenly punishment. First, they wanted to see which prodigy could create such a terrifying heavenly punishment of a minor realm. Second, they wanted to use the other party's heavenly punishment to temper themselves. Perhaps under the baptism of the heavenly punishment, they would be able to improve significantly. It was also at this moment that a young woman who was sitting cross-legged on a mountain peak suddenly opened her eyes. Hongmeng Qi surged for millions of kilometers around her, and a crystal light pierced through the sky from between her eyebrows. She was clearly a young woman who had condensed the embryonic form of a great world, whose small realm heavenly punishment is so strong. Even senior brother Yin Xian couldn't compare to him back then. Strange, when did such a monster appear in Hongmeng? Their flying speed was even slower than that of an ordinary Daluo Jingxian early-stage cultivator, and each of them looked like they were about to run out of energy. Is it these old bastards? Boom. When one of the young geniuses who had stopped and didn't dare to move forward saw the old man who had escaped from the source of the heavenly punishment, his eyes flashed with a cold, killing intent. He stretched out his hand and took control of an old man who had almost exhausted all his energy and brought him in front of him. Speak, who is the one who triggered the heavenly punishment? He's a monster. Don't kill me, none of us know who the other party is. You might know. He had been in the Hongmeng domain for hundreds of thousands of years. Although he was not completely ignorant of the outside world, he knew very little. However, these young geniuses were different. They had only been here for a short period of time. As the old man spoke, a faint ray of light shone from between his eyebrows. Instantly, it condensed into the figure of Chen Hao and appeared in front of everyone. Just then, a stream of light flashed by. Facing the terrifying pressure of the heavenly punishment, the figure did not seem to feel anything. It was extremely fast. When it saw the few of them, it stopped abruptly. Its eyes were filled with astonishment as it stared at the illusory figure condensed by the old man. Senior Sister Shana? So powerful, she's Senior Sister Shana? That's right. Shana was the top female prodigy of the Primal Chaos College 1,000 years ago. She was the target of countless prodigies. However, she was conquered by Yin Xian, the prodigy of the Fire Lotus faction who didn't join any college, when they entered the immortal scripture sacred ground 1,000 years ago. What was more shocking was that they became a true Dao partner, declaring her undying devotion to him. Of course, The two of them wouldn't use the fusion of yin and yang to cultivate now. It was just a way to confirm their status. Shauna suddenly landed beside the few people and nodded slightly at them. Then she looked at the captured old man and said, "Are you sure the person undergoing the minor heavenly punishment looks like this?" Chapter 10:22. I'm sure. Evildoer, our 10,000-strong army, was chopped up like vegetables by him with just the strength of his fleshly body. If it wasn't for the eruption of his heavenly punishment, not many of us would have been able to escape. Please let me go. My lifespan is about to run out, and I was forced to do evil. I won't do it again. As he spoke, the old man cleverly condensed what he saw into a light of memory, which floated in front of the few people present. Everyone was directly absorbed into their minds, and immediately, a look of horror appeared on their faces. How could it be him? 6 years ago, Shauna had received careful instructions from Yin Xian that if she met this person, she must not provoke him. At that time, Yin Xian had condensed memories of Li Mubai's appearance and terrifying combat strength and transmitted them to her. Now, the old man's simulated image and transmitted memories. If it wasn't the evildoer Li Mubai, who could it be? But according to Yin Xian, even if he wanted to come, he should have come after the Immortal Sutra's sacred land was over, and definitely not now. More importantly, when he fought with Yin Xian and the others, he was already at the peak of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. How could he have triggered the divine punishment? Senior Sister Shauna, do you know him? He's so strong, his strength is too terrifying. A disciple asked in shock. Although those old guys were not on the same level as the geniuses of the Chaos Academy, they were still very fearful of them, and under normal circumstances, they would not provoke them. After all, those were people who were about to die. If they were forced into a corner and joined forces to fight with their lives, even they would not be able to resist. But there were about 10,000 of these old guys, but they were defeated by that young man in one move, and he only used his physical strength. This was really too incredible. Yes, you must not provoke him, or the consequences will be unimaginable. Senior Sister he is? Disciple of the Hunyuan sect, Li Mubai. However, that was in the past. He is an outsider who was reborn into our chaotic universe through the endless samsara cycle. He was discovered by the master of the immortal scripture city and sent here. This person's innate talent and combat prowess are extremely heaven-defying. Not to mention you, even Yin Xian, Zhou Qinglong, and the others were defeated by him. Now, the controller had erased all the imprints in the chaotic boundless world and forcefully sent him to the Hongmeng domain. Once he was dissatisfied, no one could stop him. You better leave quickly, Sienna said with a grave expression. However, his heart was filled with doubt. How could there be a minor heavenly punishment at the consummate level? Could it be caused by using a heaven-defying divine ability? However, it didn't seem like it either. When a heaven-defying divine ability was executed, it would at most cause the descent of a single lightning tribulation, and it absolutely shouldn't cause such a great fluctuation. While Sienna was speculating the reason, the disciples of the Chaos Academy all widened their eyes, shocked by Sienna's words. Yin Xian, Zhou Qinglong, and the other 9 monsters had been defeated by him. What kind of concept was that? And this fellow was only experiencing a minor heavenly punishment, which meant that when he fought with Yin Xian, Zhou Qinglong, and the others, he wasn't even at the consummate level of the Hongmeng domain. This was really too terrifying. I beg you, please let me go. Scram. You've already given up. How can you break through and advance? Think carefully. Yes, Chi. The old man, who had narrowly escaped with his life, immediately ran away with all his might. However, the heavy pressure still made him unable to move quickly. Senior Sister, hurry up and leave too. He's experiencing a heavenly punishment and definitely doesn't want anyone to come near him. Yes, Senior Sister. We'll go then. Chi. The disciples quickly left with shocked expressions on their faces. At this moment, Sienna stood in place. Although she had the strength to get close to Chen Hao, she didn't take another step forward. Her heart was filled with doubts as she waited for Yin Xian's arrival. Perhaps Yin Xian, who knew Li Mubai better, could guess the reason. Crack. Rumble. The terrifying heavenly punishment suddenly descended from the sky after the heavenly tribulation clouds had formed for a full hour. Chen Hao's eyes shone with a firm and unyielding will. At this moment, his entire aura was completely concealed. If someone could see his actions at this moment, they would definitely be shocked to death. Even if the heavenly punishment was only a minor heavenly punishment, it would be difficult for anyone to withstand it. However, Chen Hao had concealed his aura. It wasn't as simple as simply withstanding it. He was completely exposing his body and soul to the heavenly punishment. Hey, little Nana, why are you waiting here? Come on, let's go and take a look together. Don't be afraid, I'm here to ensure your safety. I'm much stronger than little Xian. Let's go. A stream of light suddenly descended from above Sienna and said with a sweet smile, as he looked at Sienna. Sienna frowned and said, Zhou Qinglong, can you not be so disgusting? Please show some respect. I'm not interested in sissies. Hey, little Nana, you're hurting my heart again. I'm deeply in love with you, scram. So boring. Little Xian is much more fun than you. Goodbye. Zhou Qinglong immediately displayed a terrifying speed again. Under the pressure of the sky, he was not affected at all. He headed towards the source of the heavenly punishment. If it was anyone else, Sienna would definitely remind them. She couldn't wait for this guy to be trampled to death. It was really too disgusting. Every time they met, he would tease her, a married woman. That wasn't enough. What was worse was that he even teased Yin Xian. But they couldn't do anything to Zhou Qinglong. Oh my God. When Zhou Qinglong quickly approached and saw the figure under the terrifying heavenly punishment, he instantly stuck out his tongue and widened his eyes in shock. So fierce. What a fierce man. After a full half a minute, Zhou Qinglong finally exclaimed. Under the terrifying heavenly punishment, Chen Hao had already turned into a charred mess of flesh and blood. His appearance couldn't be seen clearly at all. But he still didn't move, no matter how many bolts of lightning struck him. What a strong, strong body. What a strong, strong soul. It seems to be even stronger than that hateful little white. It really does look like it. How can there be such a fierce man? I don't even know about it. Zhou Qinglong's eyes sparkled. He didn't have the slightest fear, only excitement. He muttered to himself, so excited that his butt was shaking here and there. So excited, he was really excited. As the saying goes, the high and lonely like the snow. The current him, even Yin Xian, Xiang Tiange, and the others couldn't satisfy his needs. Such a fierce man was undoubtedly the best training target for him. Although he didn't know how powerful his opponent's divine powers were, with such a terrifying body, soul, and will, he was definitely stronger than Yin Xian and the others. At least in terms of absolute power. Chapter 1023. Zhou Qinglong got closer and closer, and finally entered the area where the lightning was raging. Just like Chen Hao, he let out a perverted, strange cry that sounded like he was doing some kind of exercise. Zhou Qinglong, the top genius of the vast thousand worlds, was the strongest in terms of resistance. Although Chen Hao's heavenly punishment was beyond his imagination, he could withstand it. Furthermore, there were endless heavenly Tao laws that excited him. There was no doubt that this was a good opportunity for him to cultivate and comprehend. Although Zhou Qinglong was curious about when such a genius had appeared in the vast thousand worlds, he did not think of Li Mubai at all. Li Mubai was definitely still in the sacred grounds of the Immortal Sutra, and had already reached the perfected stage. These 2 points were completely negated. Therefore he was fearless. So what if he was strong? Even if he was stronger, he would not be afraid of an undying pervert. Of course, if he knew that this was Chen Hao, who could not possibly appear here, he would probably be scared witless and hide as far as he could. The last battle had already made him understand that Li Mubai was his nemesis, or rather, the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree was his nemesis. Nah. More than 10 minutes after Zhou Qinglong entered the heavenly punishment area, Yin Xian also rushed over from the depths of Hongmeng. Announce. Why are you waiting here? The heavenly punishment of this small realm is very strong, and it is extremely useful for us to train. Let's go. Yin Xian's body was shining with a flame-like light, and his cold and disdainful expression actually revealed a rare tenderness the moment he saw Sienna. He took her hand and said, "Announce, it's him." Him? Li Mubai. He's the Li Mubai that you told me not to provoke. What? Nana, did you make a mistake? Li Mubai is still in the primitive mystic realm, and he has already reached the perfected stage. It is impossible for him to trigger the heavenly punishment. It can't be his. I find it strange too. Xian, look at this. It shouldn't be wrong. Sienna immediately transmitted the light of memories that the old man had seen to Yin Xian. Immediately, Yin Xian revealed an extremely shocked expression, his brows furrowed as he looked at Sienna and said, "The appearance is indeed similar, but it can't be Li Mubai." Once the immortal scripture Holy Land opened, after entering, one could only wait until it opened again. Furthermore, Li Mubai's fleshly body was definitely not this strong. It was even more impossible for him, who was in the perfection realm, to trigger the heavenly punishment of a minor realm. Let's go and take a look. Oh, Sienna had also thought of these 2 points. She was basically sure that it wasn't Li Mubai, but after all, she hadn't seen the real Li Mubai, so she couldn't guarantee that there was anything hidden. Now, since Yin Xian said so, it naturally couldn't be Li Mubai. Chi. Not long after Yin Xian and Sienna approached the source of the heavenly punishment, Xiang Tiange and the other monstrous geniuses arrived one after another. Each of them sensed the increasing pressure of the heavenly punishment and approached excitedly without any hesitation. Ow! Ouch! Under the terrifying heavenly punishment, Zhou Qinglong moaned to his heart's content. His eyes were closed, and his entire state of mind was immersed in enlightenment. Such a strange cultivation method made Yin Xian, Sienna, Xiang Tiange, and the others speechless. However, they couldn't help but admire Zhou Qinglong's freakishness in their hearts. Enduring the bombardment of the heavenly punishment like this was definitely not something they could do. However, what surprised them the most was the person who had triggered the heavenly punishment. It was no longer as simple as resisting the heavenly punishment head-on. He had completely restrained himself and allowed the heavenly punishment to strike him. At this moment, he had already turned pitch black, and his fleshly body was covered with terrifying cracks. However, he was still immersed in the terrifying lightning and stood proudly. What a powerful guy! This person's absolute power is probably much stronger than ours. If his divine sense and combat skills are powerful, none of us will be his match. Strange. Apart from Li Mubai, when did such a monster appear in our vast 1,000 worlds? Li Mubai's strength lies in his divine sense and unique skills. This guy's strength lies in his fleshly body, soul, and absolute power. Don't worry so much. Such a powerful heavenly punishment of a small realm is a rare opportunity for us to train. After this guy goes through the heavenly punishment, we'll find him to spar with. I believe he won't refuse. Okay. Chi. The few of them quickly separated and formed a circle around Chen Hao. Each of them entered the baptism and enlightenment of the heavenly punishment. They're all here? Zhou Qinglong, Yin Xian, and the others did not know that Chen Hao, who seemed to be completely immersed in the pain and enlightenment of resisting the heavenly punishment, was extremely clear-headed at this moment. A wisp of his divine sense was floating in a radius of thousands of miles without any pressure. Although this was a one-time explosion of the 2 heavenly punishment at the middle and late stages, Chen Hao could easily enter a state of selflessness after experiencing the direct pain in the sacred ground of the Immortal Sutra. Chen Hao knew the moment Sienna, Yin Xian, and Zhou Qinglong appeared. It was just that he did not have the time to pay attention to them. Well, since they've determined that I'm not Li Mubai, then I don't have to reveal my identity for the time being. After the heavenly punishment, I can use them to test my skills. Chen Hao thought to himself. Most of his divine sense was focused on sensing the heavenly Tao laws contained in the heavenly punishment. It had to be said that the arrival of the 9 lives freak, Sienna, and the others, who were also very strong, was just like the nearly 10,000 devoid of humanity old fellows from before. For Chen Hao, it was a timely reign. After the fusion of the fleshly body, those old fellows allowed Chen Hao to erupt and test the strength of his fleshly body. Now, the descent of the heavenly punishment of a small realm had attracted the 9 freaks, Sienna, and 10 other top experts to feed him. It was like a feast prepared especially for Chen Hao. Otherwise, with Chen Hao's current strength, he would not be able to find a single opponent in the Hongmeng domain. That would be truly lonely. As each heavenly punishment was more terrifying than the last, the injuries to Chen Hao's body and soul became more and more serious. However, Chen Hao's powerful divine sense was still at ease. This allowed Chen Hao's divine sense to comprehend the heavenly Tao laws contained in the heavenly punishment to the extreme. Naturally, his efficiency was greatly increased. This was the benefit of having a powerful divine sense. Otherwise, even if Chen Hao could comprehend the heavenly Tao laws, he would not be able to use much of his divine sense to comprehend them. Zhou Qinglong, this monster, he's really a monster. He actually used the same method as me to resist the heavenly punishment. I have to get some benefits from him. Chen Hao thought to himself as he saw that the last heavenly punishment was about to end. Chapter 1024. If it had not been for the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree, Chen Hao would not have been able to defeat Zhou Qinglong. After all, he would have lost if it had been a draw. He would not have entered the sacred ground of the Immortal Sutra. During that battle, the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree had devoured a little bit of Zhou Qinglong's life origin and had improved tremendously. Now, the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree's life energy had become even purer, but it was still not as good as Zhou Qinglong's. Under such circumstances, if the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree could devour more, it would definitely evolve again. Chi. The last heavenly punishment finally ended after unleashing its strongest attack. The tribulation clouds that shrouded heaven and earth suddenly released a dazzling rainbow immortal light that poured onto Chen Hao's body. The tribulation clouds reciprocated. At this moment, Yin Xian and the others who were more or less injured looked at Chen Hao, who was shrouded in rainbow immortal light. They maintained their combat strength. After all, they had comprehended the heavenly punishment under someone else's heavenly punishment. It would be tragic if they were severely injured and lost their combat strength when the time came. Oh my, that feels so good. Fierce little guy, you're so fierce. When you recover, I'll have a good time with you. Zhou Qinglong, this evildoer, flashed a bright green light around his body, and his whole body seemed to have completely recovered. He stretched out his fingers and pointed in Chen Hao's direction, and said without any hesitation. His eyes shone brightly as he stared at Chen Hao, who was rapidly recovering from the tribulation clouds. Please don't. If it's a handsome guy, at least don't be too inferior to Little White. Otherwise, I'll feel uncomfortable looking at him. Disgusting. Oh my, little Nana, how can you say that about me? This person might be stronger than Li Mubai. Yeah, fierce little guy's body is stronger. When I came, he wasn't seriously injured. He's a little similar to Little White. Yin Xian glared at the coquettish Zhou Qinglong. Suddenly, he activated a few light of memories and floated in front of Zhou Qinglong and the others. He said, "Look, not only do they look alike, they are practically the same person. If I didn't know it was impossible, even I would have thought that he was Li Mubai." Isn't this Little White? My mother. Zhou Qinglong's face suddenly turned deathly pale, and he actually soared into the sky. Damn it. Damn freak. Li Mubai is still in the holy land of the Immortal Sutra. He's also at the consummate level. What are you afraid of? Sienna was a little dumbfounded. Although Yin Xian had told her that Zhou Qinglong had also been defeated by Li Mubai, she didn't expect Zhou Qinglong, who was unkillable and fearless, to be so scared. His deathly pale face was definitely fear from the bottom of his heart. Who's Li Mubai? Chen Hao, who was shrouded in a seven-colored immortal aura, suddenly asked softly. The faint voice was ethereal and gave people a feeling of transcendence. It didn't contain the sound of Tao, but it contained the profoundness of the sound of Tao. Just by hearing this voice, people would feel that this person was definitely an open-minded person who was transcendental and rarely had emotional fluctuations. Because of Zhou Qinglong, everyone's eyes immediately gathered in Chen Hao's direction. Zhou Qinglong, who had already risen into the air, suddenly froze. He turned his head to look into the distance, and his eyes became a little dazed. Then, as if he was intoxicated by some kind of mood, he murmured in his disgusting voice, "So beautiful, such a beautiful voice. I feel my whole body go limp. Who's Li Mubai?" Chen Hao asked again. It was still the same voice, without the slightest change in emotion. When he said this, the dazzling tribulation clouds and immortal light dissipated. Chen Hao stood tall and straight, full of energy, qi, and spirit. His eyes were as bright as stars. His appearance was his original appearance, without the slightest change. However, his face, neck, hands, and all the exposed parts were faintly flickering with runes, as if they were engraved on his body. He had sensed the situation of Sienna and the others, so he naturally knew that his appearance had been exposed. Moreover, it was not appropriate to disguise his aura, as it would make it easier for the other party to be suspicious. Therefore, he directly appeared in his original physical body after the fusion, and deliberately activated a little bit of rune light that was refined using his physical body as a tool. In this way, these guys would be even less likely to know that he was Li Mubai. "Little White, you look like, but you're really not Little White. Fortunately, you're not. Using your physical body as a tool, so powerful, little handsome, I told you, Li Mubai is the Little White that people talk about. He looks exactly like you." When Yin Xian saw that Chen Hao was frowning slightly, he pulled Zhou Qinglong away and cupped his fists. "Brother, how should I address you?" "Chen Hao. Is there anyone else who looks like me? And it's not strange. There are billions of lives in the vast thousand worlds. If there are similarities, it's purely a coincidence." Chen Hao smiled and cupped his fists. Not to mention Zhou Qinglong, even Yin Xian, Xiang Tiange and the others were taken aback by his aura. Not to mention Sienna, who was a woman. This kind of demeanor and aura instantly won the favor of these monsters. "Chen Hao, may I know which sect Brother Chen is from?" "I don't belong to any sect, I'm just a floating duckweed. I'm just a wandering cultivator. All of you are dragons and phoenixes among men. You're the strongest people of the same age that I've ever seen. Since you've entered my Tian Fa, would you be willing to exchange pointers with me?" Chen Hao said in an extremely pretentious manner, but he directly stated his purpose, and his eyes became extremely sharp. He had just passed Tian Fa, and the aura around him was perfect, giving him a strong desire to battle. Everyone looked at Chen Hao in shock. A wandering cultivator? For a wandering cultivator to be so monstrous, what kind of concept was that? But no one doubted Chen Hao's words. If this kind of person was in a large sect or academy, he would have long been famous. It was impossible for him to be unknown and unknown. "So handsome. I like it so much. Little Hao Hao, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to be intimate with you. I'm Zhou Qinglong, you can just call me Little Long Long Hee Hee. Come, let's go first." As Zhou Qinglong spoke, he lightly waved his orchid fingers, and a bright jade green light appeared between his fingers. This guy actually couldn't wait to start. The moment Chen Hao saw the enchanting and beautiful jade green light appear between the other's fingers, his clear and deep eyes were slightly surprised. A trace of confusion seemed to flash through his eyes, and his mind was affected by it. "Hee hee, you're very strong. I can only prepare first. Come on." Chapter 1025. But at this moment, Chen Hao suddenly closed his eyes and frowned slightly. He said, "Zhou Qinglong, I've heard of you. In this world, within the same realm, you're an unkillable monster. You're neither male nor female. You're a sissy. You're so disgusting. Ha! Brother Chen, you're absolutely right. With every word that came out of Chen Hao's mouth, everyone's expression changed. With such an indifferent tone and serious expression, when he talked about being effeminate and disgusting, Yin Xian, Xiang Tiange, and the others couldn't help but laugh out loud. "You're so annoying." Zhou Qinglong twisted his hips and stamped his feet. He was very shy, and said unhappily, "So it's true. One of the 9 great evildoers. Could you be Yin Xian, Xiang Tiange, and the others?" "Yes." "Very well, in that case, all of you can come at me together." Chen Hao's calm, refined, and otherworldly aura suddenly disappeared and was replaced by boundless battle intent and arrogance. The moment he finished speaking, he was still in the air, his long black hair fluttering in the wind as he looked down at the world. This made the 9 great evildoers' expressions change at the same time. Almost without any suspense, anger grew and spread in their hearts. Soon after, it burned fiercely, and their previous good impression of him disappeared completely in an instant. Which of the 9 great evildoers wasn't a domineering existence in the world? They didn't have any objections to fighting with them one by one. After all, the evildoer called Chen Hao in front of them definitely had such strength. But he actually said arrogant words and asked them to come at him together. This was blatant disdain. How could the evildoers like them tolerate this? Even the sissy Zhou Qinglong's eyes flashed with a trace of fierceness. "Brother Chen, you're indeed very strong, but in this world, no one in the same realm as you is qualified to ask us to come at you together. I, Yin Xian, will fight with you first." Boom. Yin Xian said coldly. As he spoke, the aura around him suddenly rose crazily. The fire lotus celestial seal between his eyebrows released a terrifying pressure. "Really? After today, you won't say that anymore." Chen Hao's disdainful voice echoed throughout the heavens and earth. Suddenly, his body shuddered as he threw out a punch. In an instant, the space was torn apart. The fist turned into 9 fist shadows, containing terrifying pressure and energy. They attacked Yin Xian, Zhou Qinglong, and the others at the same time. Only Xiana, who was slightly weaker, did not make a move. "Arrogant. You're courting death." Boom, boom, boom. The 9 people's faces darkened, and they all attacked violently. Even though that was what he said, Chen Hao's punch had indeed displayed a power that shocked them. One punch had 9 daos, and they had to use their full strength to deal with each one. If the 9 daos combined into one, it was indeed not something they could compare to. Rumble, 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 the 9 fist shadows collided with the 9 lives monster's angry attack. Instantly, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The space within a radius of tens of millions of miles shook violently. Xiana, who was not involved, widened her eyes in horror. She hurriedly gathered her energy and condensed a protective aura around her. Her figure swayed and she retreated into the distance. Even if she joined in a battle of this level, she would not be of much use. It was better to just watch for now. 9 people? Awesome. The collision of energy caused Chen Hao's body and soul to tremble violently. Obviously, it was a little difficult for Chen Hao to fight 9 people at the same time, no matter how abnormal he was. However, this was exactly what he wanted. Any one of the opponents would not be of any use to him. Only if the 9 of them worked together would it work. More importantly, Chen Hao could not fight with Zhou Qinglong first. Once he released the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree, his identity would be exposed. At that time, how could the 9 people fight with him? If he wanted to find someone to vent his anger on, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. It was almost impossible. After finishing his move, Chen Hao suddenly straightened his body and charged toward Yin Xian. What he wanted was the strongest and most dangerous close combat. Only when one of them fell into a dangerous situation would they truly let go of their pride and crazily intercept and fight with him. Otherwise, at this moment, since he had provoked all 9 of them, their pride would not really cooperate. Rumble. Chen Hao was like a meteor. The runes on his body flickered, and the power he condensed on his fist tore the space apart. Everywhere he passed, there was an explosion of qi. Yin Xian was astonished. At this moment, His mind was completely absorbed by Chen Hao's fist. It was as if this fist was the only thing left in this world. The terrifying pressure and the terrifying energy contained within it were beyond his imagination, whether it was the profound mysteries or the absolute power. Xian! Watch out! Little Xian Xian! Chen Hao's crazy and terrifying attack made everyone scream. They were extremely nervous for Yin Xian. Without any hesitation, the other 8 people who still maintained their pride no longer had any scruples. The 9 monstrous geniuses had gone through countless battles. They would face each other's challenge at any time. At the beginning, they might have been enemies, but now, their true relationship had become that of brothers who appreciated each other. Just like when Yin Xian learned that someone had triggered a powerful heavenly punishment, he directly informed Zhou Qinglong and the others because he knew that such a heavenly punishment would be beneficial to them. At this moment, seeing Chen Hao suddenly display such a violent killing move, how could he hold back? Roar! Yin Xian felt a great crisis, but his pride made him have no reason to retreat. At this moment, the red lotus immortal seal between his eyebrows bloomed. His whole body seemed to have turned into a ball of burning immortal lotus. All the energy condensed on his fist and he fiercely punched out. Boom! Boom 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 boom! Chen Hao sensed the violent attacks of the 8 people at the moment of sparks. He suddenly used both his fists and legs in a violent burst. However, the punch that attacked Yin Xian did not weaken, but instead became stronger. Bang! A figure suddenly appeared between Yin Xian and Chen Hao. It was as if he had appeared out of thin air. He directly took the place of Yin Xian and bore the brunt of Chen Hao's terrifying attack. Not only that, he also bore the brunt of Yin Xian's double attack. Boom! In the terrifying explosion, Zhou Qinglong's body directly exploded, blocking most of Chen Hao's attack. Yin Xian, on the other hand, spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. Do you want to kill us? I'll kill you! Zhou Qinglong's figure suddenly appeared in another place. Although his voice was still feminine, his eyes were shining with the flames of anger. The dark green light around his body instantly became several times stronger. Come! Xian Na's figure quickly flew to Yin Xian's side. She wanted to support Yin Xian, who was bleeding from the corner of his mouth, but Yin Xian reached out and blocked her. Yin Xian's eyes were like a crazed beast as he stared directly at Chen Hao. He was injured in one move. If Zhou Qinglong had not blocked it with his special ability, his injuries would have been even more serious. Anger. He didn't contain any killing intent, but he used a killing move to kill him. Chapter 1026. Damn it. Kill. Go all out, don't hold back. Boom, boom, boom. The eyes of the 9 monsters and Xian Na all turned red. Even when Chen Hao wanted to challenge the 9 of them alone, they were only angry because he looked down on them. However, when they saw that he wanted to kill Yin Xian, they went completely crazy. It had to be said that the other party was very strong, stronger than any of them. If they still had any scruples, they would probably be killed one by one. Therefore, when the good-tempered Zhou Qinglong released his terrifying killing intent, no one hesitated anymore. This is the effect I want. Chen Hao felt the intense killing intent and terrifying aura released by the 10 of them, and he felt very satisfied. He gathered his strength to the peak, turned into a human weapon, and rushed forward violently. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, a radius of tens of thousands of miles, or even hundreds of thousands of miles, became a purgatory on Earth. Terrifying energy raged, mountains collapsed, the earth caved in, and rivers flowed backward. The 9 monsters and Xian Na's 10 people cooperated with each other to the extreme. Zhou Qinglong, the sissy who couldn't be killed, became a human shield, appearing in front of whoever was in danger. Yin Xian, Xiang Tiange, and the others attacked violently. They fought from the ground to the sky, and then from the sky to the ground. The intensity of the fight was beyond Chen Hao's expectations. Minutes and seconds passed, and after a short 10 minutes, Chen Hao and the 10 people were all stained with blood. Only the freakish Zhou Qinglong seemed to be fine. One dead, another newborn. Chen Hao was exhilarated in his heart, and at the same time, he was very impressed by the 10 people's cooperation and the brotherly love they had for their sacrifice. However, he was still merciless. Of course, he didn't need to be merciful. The 10 people were on par with him when they joined forces. With the monster Zhou Qinglong around, Chen Hao didn't have the intention to kill them. Even if he did, it wouldn't be easy to kill any of them. This terrifying battle shocked countless cultivators within a radius of billions of miles. However, after a certain distance, no one dared to approach. The 9 monstrous geniuses and Xiana, who was not much weaker than the 9 monstrous geniuses, teamed up to fight one person. It was truly shocking. After the great battle had been going on for 6 hours, the attacks from both sides had become much weaker. Moreover, when all of them were injured, Chen Hao hesitated for a moment before suddenly launching a wild attack towards everyone. Immediately, with a swoosh sound, he jumped out of the encirclement and said, "The 9 great monstrous geniuses are indeed extraordinary. I'm impressed. Let's spar again in this place half a year later." After Chen Hao finished speaking, he turned into a stream of light and left. Zhou Qinglong, Yin Xian and the rest didn't have the slightest desire to give chase. At this time, they were all bitterly holding on. Even Zhou Qinglong, who seemed to be unscathed, was now deathly pale. Clearly, the self-detonation wasn't as easy as it seemed on the surface. "I'm so tired. I realized that little Hao Hao had no intention of killing any of us. Yes. He's forcing us to fight with all our might. I really didn't expect that. He's so strong that even the 10 of us can't gain any advantage over him. Moreover, if we continue to persevere, any one of us will die." Xiang Tiange said solemnly, his body covered in blood and dirt. "If we persevere to the end, we'll be the ones to die." Although I don't want to admit it, he really has the strength to challenge our combined strength. However, we've endured his heavenly punishment and aren't in peak condition. On the other hand, he has the heavenly punishment feedback. Next time, we can't let him escape so easily. Yin Xian said, "I feel so good. Ever since the last time I fought Li Mubai, I haven't had such a satisfying battle. Half a year later. I'm looking forward to it. Stop talking nonsense and cultivate with all your might. We've all gained a lot from the heavenly punishment and the battle this time. I'll go into seclusion for half a year. Goodbye." Xiang Tiange was the first to leave. "Oh my, I'm going too. Half a year later, all of you have to come. So good." Soon after, the 9 great monsters quickly left. The anger and murderous intent from before had disappeared after a few hours of fighting. These people were all smart people. At this moment, how could they not understand the reason behind Chen Hao's provocation and killing intent? What kind of strength did he have? If he fought with any of them alone, they would not feel any pressure at all, and it would not serve as a form of training. Sush. Chen Hao flew continuously at his fastest speed for a full hour. When he sensed that there were no cultivators around him, he suddenly disappeared into the void. He used the great teleportation technique and flew toward the depths of the Hongmeng domain at an even faster speed. After flying for another hour, Chen Hao landed on a barren mountain peak. With a wave of his hand, he condensed energy into a palace. So good. This kind of battle is called a form of training. After entering the palace, Chen Hao sat down cross-legged and exhaled deeply. Zhou Qinglong, this monster, is really abnormal. Unfortunately, I can't use the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree for the time being. Originally, Chen Hao had planned to release the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree, which was in a restless state in the great world in his mind, after the battle had begun. It would devour some of Zhou Qinglong's pure vitality. However, the strength of the 10 people working together was beyond Chen Hao's expectations. Chen Hao changed his mind. He knew very well that apart from the 9 great monsters, no one else in the Hongmeng domain was a match for him. It was unknown when he would be able to comprehend the Hongmeng Qi and obtain the Great World Mark. However, he was certain that it was not something that could be done in a year or two. Therefore, he did not want to give up on such a good training target for the time being. After all, once he exposed the Tao Manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree, Zhou Qinglong and the others would know his true identity. It would be difficult to continue fighting then. After comprehending the Hongmeng Qi, I'll be able to sense the aura of the Great World Mark. I'll comprehend it first. The effect might be better in the state of madness. Buzz. When Chen Hao released the sealed emotions again, he frowned slightly. This time, it did not work and did not cause him to enter the state of madness again. Although the emotions still made Chen Hao's heart ache, Chen Hao's mind was no longer under his control. Misfortune still exists, and fortune does not exist. There's no such thing as a free lunch in the world. The improvement of my willpower and cultivation base has made my state of mind even more unperturbed. The state of madness has also dissipated. Whoosh! Following Chen Hao's words, the sealed emotions in his mind were immediately unsealed. They naturally spread out and permeated into Chen Hao's mind. Fourth update, seeking monthly votes. Chapter 1027. What kind of mystery is Hongmeng Qi? Chen Hao threw away his sorrowful emotions little by little, his mind gradually calming down, and he began to think. More haste, less speed. It was useless for Chen Hao to rush back. He could only first comprehend Hongmeng Qi. As for the Great World imprint in his mind, whether he needed it or whether it would conflict with the Great World imprint in his mind, and so on, he did not know for the time being. Since the nirvana of his true self had awakened, the only people Chen Hao had come into contact with to teach and answer questions were his two chief masters, the fifth elder Duan Ziyu and the elder Tian Wanxiang. But in a short contact, what he learned was very limited. And the strength of Li Mubai, Zhao Giyu, and the others was far from the Hongmeng domain, and they also had no concept of Hongmeng Qi. Let's take a look at the jade scroll that the fifth elder gave me first, Qi. Chen Hao immediately opened the jade slip that the fifth grand elder had given him before they parted. This jade scroll condensed all the knowledge and comprehension that the fifth elder had learned in his life, and there must be records of the Hongmeng domain. Several hours later, Chen Hao slowly opened his eyes. Before the chaos was divided, heaven and earth were in chaos, vast and indistinct, and no one could see. Since the creation of heaven and earth, Hongmeng has been clear and turbid. All living beings look up to benevolence, and all things become good. Hongmeng is chaos, heaven and earth are indistinguishable, yin and yang are indistinguishable, time and space are indistinguishable, muddle-headed, in a trance. Hongmeng Qi, comprehend Hongmeng, divide heaven and earth, distinguish yin and yang, shape time and space. Chen Hao murmured repeatedly, his confused eyes gradually becoming clear. Hongmeng Qi was a non-energy existence, but a kind of mystery that created heaven and earth, raised yin and yang, and divided time and space. It was the law of Tao, the law of heaven. Comprehending the Hongmeng Qi was also comprehending the ability to condense the yin and yang of heaven and earth, as well as the laws of space and time. It was also because of this that only those who had comprehended Hongmeng Qi could sense the Great World imprint and obtain it. From there, they could use this kind of magical power to fuse with the Great World imprint and condense it into the embryonic form of a Great World. Only with these conditions could one trigger divine punishment and step into Hongmeng. Phew! With the most basic understanding, Chen Hao put away his distracting thoughts and immersed his mind into the comprehension. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. At the set time, Chen Hao woke up automatically and rushed to the place where he fought last time. Once again, Chen Hao fought with the 9 monstrous geniuses and Sienna. This time, Chen Hao returned with his wings broken. He was even weaker than last time. Immersed in comprehending the Hongmeng Qi, he did not make any progress in the past half a year. However, after half a year of hard work, the embryonic form of the macro world in his mind had become even stronger, and his battle strength had also increased by a notch. This caused Chen Hao, who had the upper hand last time, to be tied with his opponent this time. This time, Chen Hao still did not attack Zhou Qinglong. Before he left, he challenged them again, but this time, it was set to be 10 years later. Zhou Qinglong and the others readily agreed. After seeing Chen Hao leave with serious injuries, the 10 people, except for Zhou Qinglong, were all in a good mood, although they were also seriously injured. This time, it was much better than the feeling of being completely suppressed last time, and they were able to fight to their heart's content. Don't be happy too early. Didn't you notice that little Hao Hao didn't use any powerful magical powers when he fought with us twice? I don't think he won't. Of course we noticed. However, he said that he's only a rogue cultivator. It's normal that he doesn't have any powerful magical powers, right? That's impossible. How can he not have a powerful opportunity to have his current strength? If he has an opportunity, how can he not have a powerful magical power? I feel a little uneasy. Little Hao Hao and Little White are almost identical except for the runes on their bodies, and they're both very powerful. If he used Little White's Great Teleportation Technique, Great 5 Elements Technique, Great Change Technique, Great Emotional Manipulation Technique, and Soul Willpower Attack, how powerful would he be? Zhou Qinglong, don't tell me you suspect that he's Li Mubai? I'm not stupid. The Immortal Sutra Holy Land hasn't ended, so he can't be Li Mubai. But I think he's related to Li Mubai. Could he be an outsider who reincarnated into our chaotic universe with Li Mubai? And they're twins? That's impossible, right? Forget it, I'm just feeling uneasy, so I'm just guessing. I keep feeling that he's hiding an even more powerful ability. This time, he'll fight again after 10 years. At that time, with his talent and potential, he might be able to comprehend the Hongmeng Qi. If that's the case, he'll be able to master it and explode with power that's much more powerful than now. In the past 6 months, he's obviously immersed in comprehending the Hongmeng Qi and hasn't made any progress. Zhou Qinglong finally became less uncomfortable when he talked about serious matters. At this moment, the 10 of them suddenly looked at the void. Oh my, there are so many handsome guys and beautiful girls. They must be the new disciples of the Chaos Academy. Zhou Qinglong's eyes shone with excitement, and he rushed forward to welcome them. They don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The ripples from our battle are so terrifying, and these guys still dare to come over? Brother Zhou. Oh my, you know him? Brother Zhou, who in the younger generation of the chaotic universe doesn't know you. I'm Dao Yi from the Chaos Academy, and I'm here to pass a message to Brother Zhou, Brother Yin, Brother Xiang. The leading young disciple's aura was extremely powerful, and even the monstrous genius of the Chaos Academy, Huang Tianhua, couldn't compare to him. However, he was definitely older than Huang Tianhua by quite a bit. He looked a little excited, but he was very calm and polite as he clasped his hands and greeted everyone. After greeting everyone, he looked at Sienna, who had a smile on her face, and said, "Senior Sister Sienna, long time no see, you're here to pass a message to us?" Yin Xian frowned and asked directly. "Yes, Brother Yin. We've already entered the Hongmeng domain 2 months ago, but we couldn't find you. Today, we sensed the terrifying ripples from the battle, so we guessed that it must be you guys." Okay, to put it simply, who asked you to pass a message? What message did you pass, or did you pass it to us at the same time? The controller of the Immortal Scripture City specially went to the Chaos Academy to explain that Li Mubai had already stepped into the Hongmeng domain half a year ago. What? The words of the disciple called Dao Yi made Zhou Qinglong and the others widen their eyes in shock. Oh my mother! Zhou Qinglong trembled all over. Although there were still many doubts in their hearts, at this time, the 10 of them instantly understood that Chen Hao, who claimed to be a rogue cultivator, was Li Mubai. The funny thing was that he didn't even change his appearance, but they forcibly denied it. Of course, they couldn't be blamed for this. After all, Li Mubai was originally at the Great Perfection Realm, and there was no reason for him to trigger the heavenly punishment of a small realm. Moreover, in the Immortal Scripture Sacred Land, there was no reason for him to come out in advance. This kind of ironclad fact made them directly deny it. Chapter 1028. What else did the controller say? The shocked crowd finally understood what was going on. Yin Xian took a deep breath and asked, "Can't be an enemy, everything is up to fate. There's nothing else. Can't be an enemy, everything is up to fate." Everyone pondered over these words. Can't be an enemy. When the 9 great evildoers returned, The controller had specially emphasized this. But now, what did he mean by everything is up to fate? This was a contradiction in itself. Of course, everyone could understand what the controller meant. Under the circumstances of not being an enemy, everything is up to fate. Did that mean there was no need to deliberately avoid them? Zhou Qinglong just said that Chen Hao didn't use any powerful techniques in the two battles. Could he have used them in order to hide his identity? But why would he hide his identity? Perhaps he's afraid that we won't spar with him. I'm very curious. How did he trigger the heavenly punishment when he's in the perfected realm? Even stranger, how did he come out of the Immortal Sutra's sacred land ahead of time? Perhaps he awakened some ability beyond our understanding in the endless cycle of reincarnation. As for coming out of the Immortal Sutra's sacred land ahead of time, do you think the Immortal Sutra's sacred land automatically expelled him after sensing that he's an outsider? This seems to be the only possibility. Yes, the Immortal Sutra's sacred land is the foundation of the vast thousand chaos world. It contains the supreme laws and profundities of the vast thousand chaos world. Naturally, it has spiritual intelligence. I'm so scared. Little White is Little Hao Hao, and Little Hao Hao is Little White. If he uses the Tao manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree, I'll die. I won't participate in the battle in 10 years. How can that be? If you don't participate, what will we do? The controller said that everything is up to fate. Then let's wait and see. Besides, didn't he not touch you the last 2 times? With his current absolute power, if he used his powerful divine ability again, do you think we'd be lucky enough to survive if he wanted to kill us or devour you in the last 2 battles? But he didn't do that. Obviously, he has no intention of killing us. But I'm scared. Zhou Qinglong said pitifully. His slightly pale face naturally wasn't an act. He still had lingering fear when he thought of the battle in Immortal Scripture City. The Tao manifestation Immortal Fruit Tree's desire to swallow him alive was not something he could resist. If it weren't for the controller stopping the match, he would have been finished. Don't worry, I feel that he doesn't have any ill intentions towards us. He's purely using us to train himself. This is a rare opportunity for us to train ourselves. Let's just pretend that we don't know anything and continue on like this. Now, let's focus on cultivating. 10 years is but a blink of an eye. All right. The 9 monsters quickly came to a decision. Chen Hao, who had already left a long time ago, naturally did not sense what happened later. His mind was already immersed in the aura of Hongmeng on the way back. In the past 6 months, he had only made a little progress. In the space of the Hongmeng domain, he had captured a few minute energy changes, but that was all. These changes were minute changes that occurred in every inch of space. According to the cultivation experience left behind by the 5th Grand Elder, Chen Hao knew that it was the remnant Tao marks of the chaos of Hongmeng. This was the key to comprehending the Hongmeng aura. When one's comprehension reached a certain level, they would be able to see the process of Hongmeng's chaos evolving into the mysteries of heaven and earth, yin and yang, and space-time from the remnant Tao marks in every inch of space. From there, one would be able to comprehend the mysteries of Hongmeng aura. 10 years, I should be able to. After returning to the palace where the divine ability was condensed, Chen Hao sat down cross-legged and once again entered a deeper level of comprehension. Comprehending the Hongmeng aura in 10 years was simply a fantasy for most cultivators. An ordinary great perfection Daluo Golden Wonderland cultivator would take thousands or even tens of thousands of years in the Hongmeng domain to be able to comprehend the Hongmeng aura. Very few could even spend hundreds of thousands of years or even their entire lives to achieve it. Even a monster like Zhou Qinglong would need hundreds or even thousands of years to comprehend the Hongmeng aura. If other cultivators knew that Chen Hao wanted to comprehend the Hongmeng aura in 10 years, it would undoubtedly be a fantasy. However, Chen Hao was confident. Not only himself, but Zhou Qinglong and other people who deeply understood how abnormal Chen Hao was also thought that it was possible. This had already been mentioned in the previous conversation between Zhou Qinglong and Yin Xian and the others. In fact, for true geniuses, comprehending the Hongmeng aura was the most basic thing. Obtaining the Great World imprint and condensing the embryonic form of the Great World in one's mind to the limit was the truly long process. Otherwise, Zhou Qinglong and the other 8 monsters would not have been trapped in the Hongmeng domain for at least thousands of years. Of course, this was also the reason why they had high expectations for the embryonic form of their Great World. Otherwise, as long as they completed the final step of the embryonic form of their Great World, they would be able to trigger divine punishment and step into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. Hongmeng Great Thousand Domains, Immortal Scripture City. The new batch of 1,000 genius disciples who had passed the final competition had already excitedly arrived at the entrance of the Immortal Scripture Sacred Land in the City Lord's mansion, waiting for the Immortal Scripture Sacred Land to open. On the other side of the City Lord's mansion, at the entrance of the Immortal Scripture Sacred Land, there was no one else other than one of the projections of the controller. The decennial Immortal Scripture Sacred Land was about to open. Those who were qualified to enter would enter, and those who were supposed to leave would leave. The Immortal Scripture Sacred Land is open. When the controller's voice resounded in the void, a fluctuation that seemed to connect the 9 heavens and 10 earths suddenly erupted. The 1,000 cultivators immediately flew toward the entrance with excitement in their hearts. At this moment, at the entrance of the Immortal Scripture Sacred Land, figures who were sitting cross-legged and surrounded by endless immortal light came out one after another. The first figure to come out was the Chaos Academy's youngest top 100 monster, Huang Tianhua. The moment he came out, he looked around and frowned slightly. He secretly made a puzzled sound, as if he was very surprised that he was the first to come out. But immediately after, he said to himself, "It's normal to be first. After all, this is not my first time here." When people came out of the Immortal Scripture Sacred Land, they would come out from the cultivators who had entered the deepest level. Whoever came out first would prove that they had entered the deepest level. Huang Tianhua originally did not think that he would be first. After all, Li Mubai, this outsider, was really too terrifying. He could even accurately grasp the Immortal Scripture Dharma treasures. After entering the Immortal Scripture Sacred Land, his comprehension would definitely be very abnormal. Even if it was his first time here, he might not be able to compete with him. First update. Please, everyone with the support of the monthly votes, Mount Wu. Thank you. Chapter 1029. However, he is not as monstrous as I thought. Huang Tianhua smiled and thought to himself. Miss Ruan, second? When the second figure appeared, Huang Tianhua's eyes widened in surprise. It was Nguyen Tan Lan's first time entering the sacred land of the Immortal Scriptures. She had 3 magic treasures of the Immortal Scriptures, so it was not strange for her to be one step behind him. However, the strange thing was, how could she have entered a deeper level than Li Mubai? Chi. Then, one figure after another appeared. Huang Tianhua's brows gradually furrowed, and he thought to himself, so he should be the first to come out and was sent away by the controller. The moment Nguyen Tan Lan appeared, she looked around but did not see the figure she was looking for. Immediately, Nguyen Tan Lan looked at the controller's shadow, who was standing in the void and watching them. Her expression suddenly became sad and dejected. Sure enough, the moment she entered the sacred land of the Immortal Scriptures was the last time she saw him. She knew that he had been sent away by the controller. However, Nguyen Tan Lan and Huang Tianhua did not expect that Chen Hao had not just come out before them, but had left more than 3 years ago. My first time, 33rd level. My talent and potential, because of him, has reached the level of the top monstrous in the vast thousand worlds? There's hope, there must be hope. I will work harder. Nguyen Tan Lan clenched her fists tightly, and her dejected eyes instantly bloomed with a bright light again. She wanted very much to step into the Hongmeng domain, where she might be able to see Chen Hao again. However, she could not do so. To go there, she needed the controller's permission. Nguyen Tan Lan could not resist such special treatment. Then, the only way was to improve herself. In the vast chaotic space, a miniature aircraft quickly shuttled through the terrifying energy storm. This flight had been going on in the chaotic space for a full 10,000 years, and no one knew when it would end. Now, they were completely lost. Master, where are you? It's been 10,000 years. In the aircraft, a man at the peak of the Daluo Golden Wonderland with a powerful aura stared at the vast space on the display and muttered to himself. It's been 10,000 years. If we had known, we wouldn't have come out. Perhaps Master would have returned to the vast universe galaxy. A humanoid youth with green scales all over his body said. That's right. Chaotic space, millions of galaxies. We were too naive. A young man with a pitch-black body said in a muffled voice. He seemed to be carrying a pot lid on his back. It's all my fault. I'm sorry. If I didn't insist, everyone wouldn't have been lost in this vast chaotic space. My calculation ability is completely unable to reach that level. If it's not possible, let's go back and enter the spatial storm again. I should be able to calculate our return route. Are you sure? I'm 50% sure. If we continue like this, our chances will become smaller and smaller, and we'll never have any hope of seeing Master again, unless Master comes to us. Let's go back. The only humanoid youth seemed to have made up his mind after a moment of contemplation, and said resolutely, beep, 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 beep. However, at this moment, an emergency alarm sounded. There's a life aura approaching quickly. It's 100 times faster than us. Life aura. In the past 10,000 years, other than the increasingly terrifying space storm that constantly put them on the verge of death, they had never encountered any life. At this moment, while everyone was shocked, they were more excited. If there was a life aura, it meant that they had met a cultivator. If they met a cultivator, they might be able to enter the vast thousand domains. Although they might be destroyed by the other party, it was better than continuing to wander aimlessly and being buried in the space storm at any time. This aircraft was Huaxia No. 1. It was the first aircraft that Chen Hao condensed that fused technology and supernatural powers. It was also the strongest aircraft after continuous modifications. At the same time, it was also the first aircraft that gave birth to intelligence. These youths, who looked completely human, were the combination of Ito Ta and Guanu Ito Ta's soul and Guanu's body. The others were the 5 divine beasts, Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise, and Qilin. The virtual shadow, Tiny Tot, was the intelligence of Xiaoji No. 1. Fuse with Xiaoji immediately. If something happens to me, don't worry about me and don't come out. Even if my soul collapses, don't care. Do you understand? Ito-ta said in a deep voice. Xiaoji, which gave birth to intelligence, was the combination of technology and supernatural powers. It had the ability to conceal life aura. Once the 5 divine beasts fused with Xiaoji, they would become a part of the aircraft, increasing the aircraft's ability by countless times. This was also the result of their exploration in the past 10,000 years, when they had experienced countless life and death situations in the space storm. Ito-ta, don't talk nonsense. Our speed is faster than that of the Supreme Masters in Hongmeng. The person who is coming is 100 times faster than us. I'm afraid it's a Tao-cutting immortal. It's not clear whether it's a blessing or a curse. Master is not here, and I'm the boss. Obey the order. Ito-ta said firmly. Then be careful. Hiss. The 5 divine beasts did not continue arguing. They were all descendants of ancient divine beasts, and in the current era, they had become subordinates of human cultivators. Therefore, only Ito-ta could step forward. Xiaoji, display the lowest level of obedience. Don't show any intelligence. Disintegrate your intelligence for now. Understood. It really is a miniature aircraft. A figure that seemed to be traveling through time and space suddenly appeared in front of Xiaoji No. 1. There was a hint of excitement on his face as he opened his hand, and endless immortal light was about to bind the aircraft. At this moment, the cabin door of the aircraft suddenly opened. Grandpa True Immortal, you can't do this. This kid will kowtow to you. What surprised the old man was that the moment the cabin door opened, a young man who was obviously very young but had already reached the peak of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. His aura was much stronger than most grand heavenly immortals, and he had a look of shock, admiration, and excitement. The only thing he did not show was fear, and he immediately knelt before the old man, knocking his head on the floor of the aircraft's cabin. The old man immediately stopped what he was doing. When he sensed the aircraft, he had concluded that it was not an elite. After all, if he was as strong as he was, why would he use a flying treasure with such speed? He only wanted to capture the low-level cultivator and find the information he wanted. Second update, seeking monthly votes. Chapter 1030. Stop, boy, you're just from the Daluo Golden Wonderland. What are you doing in the depths of this chaotic space? Why are you so excited to see the old man? The old man frowned and asked. This old man was a true immortal. Since the owner of the aircraft had come out, there was no need for him to attack directly. With his strength, everything was under his control. This young man was a rare genius. Why did he kneel down and look so excited? This aroused his doubts. Grandpa True Immortal, I didn't want to do this. If I could go back, I would have gone back long ago. Ito Taka said with a pitiful look, still kneeling on the ground. What do you mean? It's a long story. 10,000 years ago, I entered the chaotic space to seek Tao. I didn't expect to encounter a terrifying space storm. Although I was lucky enough to survive, I was lost in the vast chaotic space and could no longer find my way back. 10,000 years have passed since then. I'm naturally very happy to see you, Grandpa True Immortal. I only hope that Grandpa True Immortal can give me a way out and take me back to the vast thousand domains. I'm willing to be a cow, a horse, or a slave. Ito Taka knelt on the ground and said sincerely. After drifting for 10,000 years, Ito Ta finally met a super expert who was obviously at the true immortal realm. Even if Ito Ta used his but to think, he knew that the possibility of this old man being a true immortal from the vast universe galaxy in the ancient chaos universe was very slim. But no matter what, as long as he could enter the vast thousand domains, it would be better than continuing to drift in the chaotic space. At least, he would have a chance to advance to the Hongmeng realm after entering the vast thousand domains. After 10,000 years in the chaotic space and countless life and death situations, he had already reached the peak of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. According to the bloodline inheritance memories of the 5 ancient divine beasts, if he wanted to advance to the Hongmeng realm, he had to enter the special space with the Hongmeng Qi and the Great World Seed. This special space existed in every vast thousand domains. This was undoubtedly the best choice. When they were searching for Chen Hao's footprints, they did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. In the vast chaotic space, the deeper they went, the more they realized how small they were. This was not something the chaotic space around the ancient chaos Great Thousand Domains could compare to. They could only make plans after they had improved their realm and strength. Otherwise, he would have been buried in this chaotic space at an unknown time. 10,000 years. You're just a Daluo Jinxian. You've been drifting in the depths of the chaotic space for 10,000 years on such a tiny flying machine. You're really lucky. When the old man heard Ito Ta's words, he was surprised. Immediately after, his eyes flashed imperceptibly and he asked, "What's the name of the great wide world that you're in?" "The Great Thousand World I'm from is called the Ancient Chaos Great Thousand World. It has 10 galaxies and 9 races. I'm a human cultivator. My surname is Ting Tai, and my name is Ting Tai." The inherited memories of the 5 ancient divine beasts allowed him to know that in the Endless Star River, there were many vast thousand worlds that could not be interacted with. In particular, some of the weaker vast thousand worlds did not dare to be known by outsiders. However, he did not lie. He was just a small fry and had not reached the level of having a headache over the ancient chaos world. Improving himself and finding his master were the things he should be thinking about. Ancient Chaos Great Thousand World? 10 galaxies? However, what surprised Ito Ta was that after hearing his words, the old man showed an extremely shocked expression. "Grandpa True Immortal, you're from the same vast thousand world as me? That's great. Grandpa True Immortal, please send me back. Thank you very much. Old man is not from the ancient chaos Great Thousand World. You're a human cultivator. So, you're from the vast universe galaxy? Itota was surprised. Then, do you know Yilan? Yilan. Itota frowned, surprised and puzzled. He seemed to be thinking. How could he not know Yilan? It was just that this guy didn't have anything else, but he had the potential to be an evil person. He was 100% shrewd. The other party obviously knew Yilan. In the vast universe galaxy, there were countless people with the name Yilan. However, there was only one Yilan that could be called out by a true immortal. This shocked Itota. However, before the old man made clear his relationship with Yilan clear, he would not take a stand. Old man said so. You may not know. Hundreds of billions of years ago, it's too long. Even the old man can't remember the specific year. At that time, he had just cut his path, and so did the old man. We met in the great world of Xiandi. Thus, it's a pity. The old man seemed to be lost in his memories. He shook his head and looked at Itota again. Now, with his talent, he may be a true immortal king. Have you heard of him? Grandpa True Immortal? You're talking about the strongest master in our vast universe galaxy. I'll kowtow to you. Bang, bang. Itotaichi had only said a few words, but he was so excited that he started to kowtow. However, at this moment, the old man sent out a wisp of energy and stopped him. He said, "Old man won't hurt you. There's no need to do this. I can be considered half a disciple of our master. Grandpa True Immortal, since you're an old friend of our master, how can I not kowtow to you?" Itota changed his tone and called himself a disciple. Grandpa True Immortal's position is unclear. I don't dare to talk nonsense. Itota was sweating profusely. He wiped his face and said in fear and trepidation, "You're smart. Tell me, how can you be considered half a disciple of Yilan?" This disciple's big brother, who is also this disciple's master, received the controller's true teachings and can be considered the controller's disciple. Everything this disciple has learned was taught by my big brother. Therefore, I can be considered half a disciple of the controller. When Itota felt that the old man and Yilan were not enemies, he immediately shamelessly tried to get close to them. How could Chen Hao have received the true teachings of Yilan? He only received some pointers before the battle. He was far from being a true disciple. As for his claim of being half a disciple, it was even more baseless. Yilan had never even seen him before. It was a question whether or not Yilan knew of his existence. I see, Grandpa True Immortal, can you send me back? Ancient Chaos World. Based on the friendship between Old Man and Brother Yi, I should send you back. However, if you want to go back, Old Man can help you. However, I can't send you back because no one dares to go near the Ancient Chaos World. If it's not the Ancient Chaos World, Old Man can send you back. You're just a Daluo Golden Wonderland. Why do you want to go into the depths of the chaotic space alone? Don't you know that if you go beyond a certain distance, your connection with the Ancient Chaos World will be cut off? Daluo Jingxian, once he entered the chaotic space and flew beyond a certain distance, he would be lost and would never be able to find his way back. Itota, Xiaoji, and the 5 mythological beasts had been flying for 10,000 years. Although their speed was 100 times slower than this old man, they had long lost their connection with the Ancient Chaos World. If this old man wanted to help them, it would take a long time. Moreover, the Ancient Chaos World was a forbidden place. Third update, begging for monthly votes. Continue Wushan, please everyone. Chapter 1031. I knew it was dangerous, but I didn't expect it to be so dangerous. I didn't think too much when I was looking for my master. Big brother. You mean Brother Ye's disciple? He also entered the depths of the chaotic space? Yes, when Big Brother ascended to the golden celestial of the great all-embracing heaven, he triggered the golden scale dragon transformation. At the last moment of the heavenly punishment, he unfortunately collapsed. However, the controller said that he did not collapse, but entered the nirvana of his true self. The contract between me and Big Brother also proved that Big Brother is still alive. Therefore, I entered the chaotic space to find Big Brother. What's nirvana? The old man frowned slightly. He didn't understand with his cultivation level. He was very clear about nirvana, but he didn't understand nirvana. I don't understand either. I only know that it's one of the controller's strongest techniques. Golden scale dragon transformation, true self-nirvana. Looks like Brother Yi is much stronger than I imagined. Your disciple is also much stronger than this old man. Brat, you are really bold. Even Brother Yi didn't come out to look for him. How could you find him? Alright, I'll send you back. The old man can't. However, he can send you to a place. When you break through to the Hongmeng realm, you'll be able to teleport back to the Great Thousand Primordial Chaos world. Fortunately, I met you. Otherwise, the old man would have wasted many years here. Come in. Buzz. As the old man spoke, a crystal light suddenly shone from between his eyebrows, enveloping Itoterra and the aircraft. Then they disappeared into the chaotic space. It's been hundreds of billions of years, Brother Yi. If you didn't show mercy back then, I would have died in the great world of Xiandi. Today, I'll consider it as repaying your kindness. Sigh, what a pity. The old man shook his head. Yi Lan, a cultivator from the Great Thousand Primordial Chaos world, was of the same generation as him. They had both stepped into the great world of Xiandi after cutting Dao. Yi Lan's talent was among the top even in the great world of Xiandi. Unfortunately, recalling the past, he couldn't help but sigh and sympathize with Yi Lan. However, who could change it? On the path to the peak of martial arts, one wrong step could mean eternal damnation. It was also because of Yi Lan that a great change occurred in the ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds. The great world of Xiandi was a killer move. The forbidden grounds were meant to be protected. Or rather, it could be considered a form of compensation. After the old man left the great world of Xiandi, he did not know the specifics. He only knew that if it wasn't for what happened back then, Yi Lan might not just be a true immortal king. After the old man sighed, he suddenly rushed in a certain direction. At the same time, he sent out several terrifying divine senses, which directly penetrated the endless space storm. This old man was none other than the head of the Hunyuan sect, the Great Thousand Ancient Chaos world. Without a doubt, the Dao marks of the Milky Way tunnel that they discovered were most likely related to the Great Thousand Ancient Chaos world. As for who the so-called immortal opportunity was, it was not something that he could predict. However, there was one thing he was sure of. It was very likely that it was caused by an expert approaching the ancient chaos Great Thousand world. This old man was none other than the first Grand Elder of the Hunyuan sect. When they discovered the Dao marks of the Milky Way tunnel, the sect master of the Hunyuan sect had sent him and the second Grand Elder to lead 10 elders into the remaining Dao marks of the Milky Way tunnel to explore the situation. Now that several years had passed, the remaining Dao marks of the Milky Way tunnel had disappeared several months ago. They had split up to search for the Great Thousand Worlds nearby. Even if the Great Thousand Worlds were near where the Dao marks of the Milky Way tunnel had disappeared, it was definitely not something that could be found in a short period of time. It was possible that it would take hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years. However, they did not expect to meet Ito Ta in this chaotic space. They also learned that the Great Thousand Worlds that existed in this chaotic space was the ancient chaos Great Thousand World that was listed as a forbidden ground by the current ruler of the great world of Xiandi. There was karma in the unseen world. The most mysterious long river of fate in the world was unfathomable, but it was like an invisible hand at all times, controlling countless living beings and even all living things in the world. This is the great world in the mind of a Dao severing true immortal? After Ito Ta appeared in the great world in the mind of the great elder of the Hunyuan sect, his eyes widened in shock. The majestic and pure heaven and earth spiritual qi and the endless Dao laws were too powerful. This was not something that Chenhao's great world in the mind could compare with. Ito Ta, there is no need to be surprised. It is fate that the old man met you. This is a cultivation environment that was deliberately created for you. When the old man returns to our chaotic Great Thousand World, he will directly send you to the Hongmeng domain. Although your aura is very strong, There are countless old guys who have been immersed in the Hongmeng domain for hundreds of thousands or even millions of years. There are also the most monstrous genius disciples of our chaotic great thousand world. It is still very dangerous. And you are alone. If you die there, it will be a pity. Therefore, during this period of time, you should cultivate with all your strength. Time is limited. The old man will not let you appear in the chaotic great thousand world. Thank you, Grandpa True Immortal. You are welcome. The old man owes Brother Yi a favor. Helping you like this is just a small matter. But you have to promise the old man that after you enter the Hongmeng domain, unless someone wants to kill you, you cannot kill the cultivators of our chaotic great thousand world. I understand. When you comprehend the Hongmeng Qi, get the prototype of the great world, trigger the divine punishment, and successfully step into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, there will be 2 star river tunnels. You can naturally sense which one is from your chaotic great thousand world. The other is the great world of Xiandi. Don't make a mistake. Otherwise, even if you are talented, you will have a slim chance of survival. Because you are from ancient chaos, Ito Ta said with tears of gratitude. He really met a benefactor when he went out. Ito Ta did not have any doubts about the old man's words. What was the great world of Xiandi? He did not know at all. But he knew that after he was promoted to the Supreme of Hongmeng, he was only a small Hongmeng. The vast universe galaxy was the peak of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. There were very few who could come back alive after stepping out of the chaotic great thousand world. The only regret in his heart was that he could not find his boss in 10,000 years. The subtle connection between the 5 divine beasts, him, and Xiaozhi had with their master had completely disappeared after experiencing several space storms. It was fortunate that they did not die, not to mention finding Chen Hao. However, these fellows didn't know that the master they were bitterly searching for was currently in the primordial domain that they intended to head to. At the same time, he who was in the great world of the first Grand Elder's mind, and the 5 divine beasts, who had retracted everything and merged into Little Wisdom One, could not have imagined that if they were outside, they would be able to sense a familiar aura, an aura that would absolutely make them ecstatic. The remnant aura of the Star River Tunnel. The aura of a calm god. 4th update, Wushan continues, begging for monthly votes. Chapter 1032. Whether it was Ito Tai or the 5 divine beasts, they were all trained by the old god, so how could they not be familiar with the aura of the old god? When Chen Hao's original body appeared in front of the residual Dao marks of the Demon Abyss Star River Tunnel in the body of Li Mubai, he sensed that the Star River Tunnel contained the aura of the old god, and it was very strong. Originally, before seeing the residual Dao marks of the Star River Tunnel, Chen Hao thought that the old god, the guardian of the genuine immortal magic treasure, had collapsed with his collapse and returned to nothingness. It would take some time for the old god to condense his spiritual wisdom. However, after sensing the aura of the Star River Tunnel, Chen Hao knew that the old god must still be fine. The Star River Tunnel must have been opened by the old god and the genuine immortal magic treasure. At that time, Chen Hao wanted to rush in because of this reason. The residual Dao marks of the Star River Tunnel might be his only hope to go back, but he was too weak at that time, and he was still very weak now, so he could not resist the arrangement of fate. He had participated in the contest for the Immortal Scripture Holy Land and been recognized by the Immortal Scripture City Master, the highest existence in the vast thousand chaos world, as a life source that was not from the vast thousand chaos world. Then, he had been sent to the primordial chaos domain. Everything that had happened was beyond his control. But Chen Hao believed that the old god could not disappear forever. Since the Star River Tunnel contained his aura, then when Chen Hao collapsed, the old god did not collapse. The biggest possibility was that when he opened the Star River Tunnel for himself, he exhausted all the energy of the genuine immortal magic treasure and its guardian, the old god, so they fell silent in the depths of his mind and could not be recovered for the time being. Ito Tai, who was moved to tears, did not hesitate to immerse himself in the thick and pure heaven and earth spirit qi and endless Tao laws, and began to comprehend and cultivate. In the chaotic space, they had drifted for 10,000 years. Countless chaotic space storms had nearly caused them to perish. This had undoubtedly caused Ito Tada's strength to rise to an astonishing level. In particular, his state of mind and will were incomparable to when he was in the vast universe galaxy. More importantly, his soul and the physical body that could barely be regarded as a possession were now completely compatible, without any flaws. Similarly, for 10,000 years, Itoda and the 5 mythological beasts were constantly on the edge. At this moment, Yi Futian was lucky enough to meet the Grand Elder and enter the absolute safe space of the Grand Elder's mind world. Endless pure energy of heaven and earth circled around Yi Futian, allowing him to cultivate and comprehend. It felt as if he had suddenly entered heaven from hell. It was simply too comfortable. What a guy! The speed of refining energy is actually so fast? Not long after, the great Supreme Elder thought to himself in surprise. That's right. This kid has been wandering in the depths of the chaotic space for tens of thousands of years, swallowing and refining the most violent energy in the world all the time. It's hard for his refining ability not to be strong. Now that the old man is providing him with pure energy, his refining speed is naturally 100 times faster. This was indeed the case. At this moment, it was as if Ito Ta, who had been eating stones, had suddenly turned into fine grains. How could he not be fast? What? His comprehension ability is also so strong? After a period of time, the first Grand Elder was shocked again. He did not hold back the Tao laws that he had condensed around Itoda. After all, he owed Yi Lan his life, and it was almost impossible for him to repay him in his lifetime. Now that he had met half of Yi Lan's disciple and sent him to the Hongmeng domain, it would be inexcusable if he died prematurely. Moreover, he knew very well that a true celestial king like Yi Lan might not even care about his divine ability and supreme technique. Therefore, there was no need to hold back at all. However, at this moment, what surprised him was that the aura of the 3 great celestial sutras contained in his Tao laws allowed Itoda to comprehend at an astonishing speed. Genius, a true monstrous genius. This guy who can't even be considered half of Brother Ye's disciple is already so monstrous. Then, won't Brother Ye's disciple be comparable to Brother Yi in the past? What a pity! If only old man had such a disciple. The great Supreme Elder sighed emotionally. However, he could only think about it. Outsiders were not allowed to exist in any other vast thousand realms except the great world of Shendi. However, the great Supreme Elder did not know that Itoda's quick comprehension of the 3 great celestial sutras was completely due to his master, Chen Hao, the outline of the great Tao. Even though he was ignorant and did not understand it at all, he had heard it countless times in Chen Hao's great world in his mind. He had more or less been greatly affected. Similarly, the great Supreme Elder did not know that in the short few years he had spent in the Milky Way tunnel, the Hunyuan sect had changed because of Li Mubai or Chen Hao. Needless to say, when Tan Lan, even Zhang Chong and Sidu Qian, who had fought with Chen Hao, had obtained celestial sutras. This Hongmeng domain in the palace. Chen Hao was sitting cross-legged, emitting a dense aura around him. The light was illusory and seemed to fluctuate along with Chen Hao's long breaths. The energy particles of heaven and earth that could not be seen with the naked eye seemed to be evolving some kind of ancient mystery, and it was gradually becoming clearer and clearer. Hongmeng Qi. When this happened, it was the 9th year after Chen Hao's battle with the 9 great evildoers. When the 10th year of the duel was about to arrive, the mystery of Hongmeng Qi was already clearly visible, and Chen Hao's mind could grasp it at any time. As for Chen Hao, because he had comprehended the mysteries of Grand Miss Qi, his body, soul, essence, energy, and true essence had undergone an imperceptible transformation. Although not a single one of them had become stronger, when he activated them, they had become even more harmonious, giving off a feeling of complete unity from the inside out. This was the change brought about by comprehending the Hongmeng Qi. It was like returning to one's natural state, breaking yin and yang, destroying heaven and earth, shattering time and space, and returning to the chaotic state of Hongmeng. Of course, it was not done, it was just a kind of artistic conception. But it was this kind of artistic conception that could greatly increase a cultivator's combat power. Phew, time's up. Fortunately, I've perfectly achieved my goal. Chen Hao slowly opened his eyes, and a smile appeared on his handsome face. I hope the 10 of them can also make astonishing improvements. Buzz. Chen Hao had just finished speaking when his body suddenly trembled, and he disappeared from the spot. Even the palace that he had condensed from his divine power nomological laws disappeared into thin air. There was no need for him to return here. After comprehending the Hongmeng Qi, he needed to use the fastest speed to find the Great World imprint and condense the prototype of a great world in his mind that truly belonged to him. Chen Hao was looking forward to seeing what would happen to him, who already had a great world in his mind. Time's up. Bye. No, your real name should be Chen Hao. In 10 years, unless you've comprehended the Hongmeng Qi, otherwise. Yin Xian suddenly transformed into a streak of light and disappeared from the cultivation ground. I'm so scared. Should I not go or should I not go? Or should I definitely not go? Boo. I'm a loyal person, I can't just leave them be. Boo, I'd better go. At most, I'll be devoured by little white, oh little Hao Hao. He won't destroy me, right? Zhou Qinglong touched his face and walked back and forth. After hesitating for a long time, he finally chose to go. 5th update, can I cast a monthly vote? Thank you. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.